Yes.
The Leipzig army sends its regards.
Hello, everyone. I'm the Enforcer, and I'm accompanied by Enforcer Matt.
And good evening, folks. This is Enforcer Matt, and welcome back to day 1626 of the War News stream. And tonight we have very big news, especially coming out of Germany, that Germany's been infiltrated by foreign drones this evening near a military base housing Patriot missile launchers. We've also seen, in the meantime, a major Crimean base exploded after brand new attacks. And also, Putin is preparing to escalate on NATO yet again today. And we have a lot of big news, and it's good to see you all once more.
And of course, we're going to cover the past 24 hours of the news from around the world, as we have been able to hear major developments within the Federal Republic of Germany over the course of the day, U.S. intelligence on the broader situation along the NATO frontier, the ongoing war in Ukraine, and the major damage caused by a Ukrainian naval campaign last night, as well as significant deep strikes in the city of Yekaterinburg and elsewhere throughout the Russian Federation, and some intermediate updates on the Middle East, including a bombshell update that Mujtaba Khamenei may actually be right on death's doorstep right now, even according to Iranian media inside the country. We will be making sure to cover each and every single bit of this, but of course, to get us through all of our top stories of the night and lay out the itinerary, we have been able to hear that the Federal Republic of Germany's armed forces have detected and noted that several drones were spotted over a key Patriot repair facility within Western Germany over the course of the last night. These drones apparently were most likely Russian drones, as intelligence has also emerged from U.S. intelligence efforts after the Leipzig attack that has confirmed that the drones, the FPV drones used in the incident, were in fact of a Russian design and construction, showing that at this moment the Russian Federation is conducting hybrid attacks directly against the Federal Republic of Germany, and the Leipzig airport is the first incident site that we have seen. This has led us to say that the incident currently happening over the Patriot repair facility of the German army just to the west of Bonn, Germany, is most likely also another Russian drone incident and a breach of the airspace over the area of this key facility strategy for the German army. While all of this information has come out, we also were able to see that further on up and inside the Baltics, U.S. intelligence reports have come out that are fairly damning and are once again sending out the alarm bells themselves that the Russian Federation is planning on some form of a direct overt offensive action against NATO to be able to test the alliance's resolve. They are stating that it could be anything within a cyber attack all the way up into a full-blown ground invasion of the Baltic states and most frontier nations within the eastern flank of the NATO alliance. While all of this was going on today in Europe, we also were able to see that the Ukrainian armed forces, and particularly the Ukrainian Navy, were able to conduct an autonomous drone campaign against the Russian Federation overnight, striking the key port of Yalta along the southern coast of Crimea, and also striking 3 vessels near to the area of Novorossiysk and Galenchik, which are several of the vessels that were waiting to enter either port. From what we understand, most of these vessels have been severely damaged and are currently adrift after their crews abandoned them due to the fires raging out of control, far beyond the capabilities of the crews to be able to try and generally put out the fires or to stop the damage from sweeping through the rest of the vessels. We also saw that the Ukrainian logistics campaigns in the rear line areas have also continued to be quite successful, with a major amount of attacks along the M14 highway and also the E105 traveling directly into Crimea, causing significant backstops and delays on Russian supplies being able to make it to the starved forces within the areas of the Kherson Oblast and also Crimea. We have also gotten reports that an airbase attack was conducted overnight, with the Ukrainian long-range attack forces hitting the Harvitske airfield just north of Simferopol, and possibly causing significant damage to support facilities or the aviation units that were based out of the airfield. Other major attacks have also been conducted throughout Russia over the course of this past night, with major explosions being seen within the Yekaterinburg area from the Ukrainian drones that appear to have attacked another wild berries distribution facility. The Sizran refinery has also been directly hit and heavily damaged as well by more Ukrainian drone strikes conducted within just the past few hours, while at the same time we have also been able to hear of a mysterious explosion that has occurred within the Moscow area, of which there is really no real indicator of why that happened or what directly was hit. There was a streak of a missile defense system in the sky, and not long after, a humongous explosion that rocked a large area of western Moscow. At the moment, a large amount of Russian citizens don't even understand what happened, and there hasn't really been any smoke rising from the ground or any visible proof of an in-air interception, but the explosion was quite large, and the fact that there's been no indicators of what has actually unfolded is only adding to the mystery within the city. We have also been able to see outside of the situation in the deeper parts of the Russian Federation that the Ukrainian armed forces have been able to hold the front lines today and inflict significant casualties on Russian armed forces along the active front. Meanwhile, within the Middle East, we have seen that the Yemeni Houthis have continued their offensive ballistic missile strikes against the Yemeni armed forces, with a major missile strike being seen near to the city of Marib, incredibly close to the active front line and one of the most heavily contested areas in the ongoing Yemeni civil war. Additionally, 2 strikes were heard within the area of the city of Morgisa within the western Somaliland areas. It is unknown as to why these strikes were conducted or what the explosions were, but it is one of the first times that a martial incident has been recorded here on the channel that may be affiliated with the larger Iran war or Iran skirmish that is happening throughout the Middle East. Meanwhile, news also emerged from Tehran that Mujtaba Khamenei may be on death's doorstep and may die any time now, outside of a U.S. airstrike, believe it or not. And it appears that he is just in incredibly bad health, most likely from the injuries and wounds that were inflicted on him on the 28th of February strike that killed Ali Khamenei, his father, that he may also be very close to death's doorstep as well. We have also been able to see that the Popular Mobilization Forces and other militias within Iraq have publicly announced that they're postponing their attacks against Saudi Arabia, and at the same time, Saudi Arabia announced that they have now conducted or created a defensive pact with Turkey, Saudi Arabia, and Pakistan being its key members. Turkey also reiterated that this will not be changing their commitments to NATO, but they will also be extending defensive support to the Saudi Arabians if they are attacked in the future. A damning report also came out that nearly 86% of all of Saudi Arabia's Pact 3 interceptors and generally all of their MIM-104 Patriot missiles have been fired off during the first and second phases of the conflict with the Islamic Republic of Iran, leaving them with only a meager 14% in the missile stockpiles to be able to be used in defense of future attacks. And of course, we've seen that the back and forth between the United States and Iran has continued today, as usual, over the situation with the Strait of Hormuz. But we are going to be making sure, folks, to cover each and every single piece of this news, starting with our largest stories first, first, and then moving our way on down into the smaller stories throughout the night. And to say the least, we once again have major news that has come out from the entirety of the world once again today, and we're going to be making sure to cover it in the detail that we always cover it in. And so with that, it's time for us to move on immediately and into NATO, and specifically the Federal Republic of Germany, as there's been a concerning situation that has once again developed inside of Western Germany this time instead of Eastern Germany. The last incident that we were able to report of within Germany was the Leipzig airport attack, or the failed Leipzig airport attack, where 2 Russian FPV drones appear to have been used or attempted to have been used to attack a Ukrainian Antonov 124 sitting on the tarmac, and another one collided with the nose cone of a DHL 757 cargo aircraft that was landing at Leipzig and appears to have crashed into the drone, or the drone had deliberately attempted to ram the aircraft while it was trying to land. Nevertheless, neither one of the drones exploded, although it has become evidently clear at this point that both drones were armed with explosives, and the general intent at this point that's understood was that they were going to try and attack and destroy cargo aircraft that were operating within the Leipzig airport area. Now we've been able to hear of a new incident that has just occurred over a Bundeswehr, or here, military facility within Germany, specifically just west of Bonn. Here in the small village of Yekaterinburg, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, there is a patriot repair facility that is the only one of its type within the Federal Republic of Germany that is contracted out to repair every single one of Germany's MIM-104 Patriot missile batteries. The Federal Republic of Germany, much like many other countries, relies on its large caliber air defense batteries to be able to provide it with any form of effective air defense. Over a long period of time now, over the past several decades, most self-propelled guns or self-propelled anti-aircraft guns of the German army have generally been retired from service, and also an additional large number of them that were being retired at the very early part of this decade were then provided to the state of Ukraine to provide them with effective defenses against drones, meaning that Germany largely relies solely on missile-based interceptors and missile-based defense systems to be able to keep its air defense network operational in a hypothetical large-scale war with the Russian Federation, meaning that the operational abilities, or the upkeep of the operational abilities of air defense systems, are of vital importance to Germany and are also of vital importance for their national defense. Of 2 important support facilities in Germany, there is one major missile manufacturing for the Pact 3 that is just north of Vilseck, Germany, here in the Bavaria state, and another, a repair facility that is based here just west of Bonn in this small village. And it is quite literally the only one of its type within the whole of Western Germany that can repair and continue to see that the patriots of the German army operate even if they sustain some sort of damage or if they come into the regular wear and tear. As of the information that has come out today, and according to reports from Tagesschau, 6 suspicious drone flights were observed over the Bundeswehr's Patriot Werft maintenance facility and underground logistics depot in Mechernich between 2200 and 0500 hours on the night leading into Friday. The Patriot Werft is Europe's sole facility responsible for maintaining and repairing Patriot air defense systems, and of course the one the German army is relying on heavily to be able to keep their Patriot missile systems operational in the midst of wartime and also in peacetime with their usual wear and tear, like mentioned prior. This news also came out that at the same time as a U.S. intelligence report has finally been made on the situation with the Leipzig attack. And to give you all a general picture here of the major concern that we're seeing, U.S. intelligence has reportedly linked the explosive-laden drone discovered at Germany's Leipzig Hall airport this week to the Russian government, according to the Wall Street Journal. The drone was found Tuesday night inside a secure area of the airport, just meters from a Ukrainian Antonov cargo aircraft, carrying what German investigators reportedly determined was an explosive device with a defective detonator that failed to function. The discovery forced the airport to suspend operations overnight. Authorities are also investigating a second suspected drone that a DHL cargo aircraft reportedly struck after executing a go-around due to the airport closure, with the aircraft later safely landing despite damage to its nose. The development comes one day after the Wall Street Journal reported that new U.S. intelligence assessments warned Vladimir Putin could test NATO's resolve through limited attacks ranging from sabotage and cyber operations to a small-scale incursion into alliance territory. Western officials have increasingly warned that Russia is conducting probing operations against NATO infrastructure, with previous incidents including drones entering Romanian airspace, which we have documented heavily here on the channel, and Russian missiles landing in Poland. So, with this in mind, the fact that U.S. intelligence is now saying that these drones were in fact linked to the Russian Federation in some form, the reconnaissance drones, or the large number of drones seen over this key repair facility, the only one of its type in Europe, and of course incredibly important for the maintenance of German air defenses, is something that is of major concern. And this is starting to show us, at least at this point, that the Russian Federation is now conducting hybrid attacks, or generally plausible deniability attacks, if we want to call them in that way, where the Russian Federation is not directly responsible or overtly responsible for any attempted attacks or reconnaissance against the German armed forces and key supply lines throughout the entirety of NATO, but they may be able to conduct damage ahead of time on these key facilities and knock out vital and important logistical capabilities and sustainment capabilities of NATO armed forces before an actual conflict begins. And a lot of people have been talking in the chat right now about the situation that has just happened overnight in the west of Bonn in western Germany over this key Patriot repair facility. And Matthew, what are people thinking about that right now? And what are you thinking about that as well? Are they thinking that they're trying to conduct reconnaissance before the war, or that they're trying to destroy these facilities, or possibly to destroy these facilities before a war breaks out? And what are you thinking as well?
All right, so Germany appears to be the brand new target of Russia's wrath at this point. It looks like Germany's coming under some pretty serious recon flights. And now, after we heard that apparently a DHL cargo flight was hit by a drone the other day, we also saw that there was a drone sitting right nearby to Ukrainian aircraft on the tarmac, waiting to pick up supplies or drop off supplies. We're now hearing that Germany's reporting a brand new drone incursion last night with 6 drones spying on the air defenses in the area. So, what are your thoughts about that? And 55% said Russia is clearly doing recon for a future war, while 35% said Russia's trying to sabotage NATO, and 7% said it seems like something else. And I would say at this point, I'm very concerned about where these drones are coming from. That's the big unanswered question that we have right now is where the drones being launched from. We have an idea of who the operators are. It's got to be Russian agents or maybe the Russian military itself. It's most likely one of those two people operating the drone. But how are they getting into Germany? That's the question. It could be an operative that was already pre-existing inside of Germany that could be acting on behalf of the Russians. It could be a ship near the coast, or it could be anything of that nature. And in my opinion, that's the bigger question that needs to be asked right now and answered is where is it coming from? Because there's really no way to combat this without knowing the launch site. And right now, that's not clear at all. So I would say that Russia is trying to sabotage NATO. That's my guess. These recon flights, and also yesterday, that was not a recon flight whatsoever. We saw an active attack on an aircraft at a German airport. That was no recon flight. So I'm with the 34%. I think Russia's trying to sabotage, and that's probably what they're up to. It's probably hybrid warfare. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to say that I'm with the 34% as well. I think these are attempted in kind of a bit of a blend reconnaissance ahead of sabotage attacks, and I would have a feeling that some sort of reconnaissance flights by drone were also conducted ahead of the attacks at Leipzig that were conducted just several days ago, and now we're getting clear information out from every source, including Germany and the United States, that those drones were Russian affiliated and were being operated by some sort of a Russian intelligence agency, most likely, in an attempted attack against a key supply hub inside of Germany. I would say that this situation is very similar. We're not entirely sure, folks, of the design or type of drone that was seen multiple times over this repair facility in Western Germany, but if we were able to find that out, that's going to be giving us some telling information. One thing that we do know, as far as the facts concerned from the Leipzig attack, is that both of the suspected drones are believed to be of the identical design. Small FPV drones that most likely have a limited charge and therefore limited range, meaning that whoever was operating those drones at the Leipzig attack had to have been within close proximity of the airfield, most likely only within several miles of the airfield, for the drones to be able to have the ability and range to make it to the airfield and to attempt these attacks that we saw several days ago. If we are able to hear at some point in the future that the drones were of a similar design over this repair facility, then we are having an understanding clearly at this point that there are some sort of FSB teams that are inside of Germany that are traveling around and trying to conduct these sorts of sabotage attacks directly from German soil at short range. If the drones were of a larger size, there is a good possibility that those drones that were seen over the repair facility last night may have been launched in a very usual tactic that we've seen seen from the Russians in prior years, from vessels that may have been transiting or hanging out in the northern Baltic, well, actually in the southern Baltic Sea, north of the German border, and that those drones may have been launched into Germany, flown long distance, and then
Yeah.
conducted several reconnaissance flights over that repair facility.
Well, that's the problem to me because the last time we saw this, we saw drones flying all over European airports, and the drones appear to be fixed wing, larger scale drones that were flying over. And when did that happen? Like 6 months to a year ago that happened? You remember when Europe was being inundated by these drone flights over airports? You remember that?
Probably a year ago, I would say.
Yeah, we never got the answer to exactly who was behind that. Like, there were some people saying that maybe China was behind it. Some people were saying that Putin was behind it. But the consensus was the drones were likely coming from ships off the coast. That was the consensus because the drones are simply too large to be launched from the ground by some agent inside of these countries. But we don't know the design. That's the catch, though. We know that those small FPV drones yesterday were hanging around the German airports. We know that. But we don't know exactly what these drones were today that were flying around the military bases housing the Patriot missiles. And if we knew that, that would probably give a lot more answers at this point if we knew that that answer to that question. But Germany's not really saying exactly what flew over. They're keeping that kind of secret.
Yeah, it is something interesting, folks, is that the Germans are trying to keep a very tight lid on this. And also, folks, this is something that I have to say we're kind of taking a little bit of preemptive jump on, but with a very good understanding that our statement is correct, is that the Germans did not want to say during the Leipzig attack that the drones were in fact Russian. They really held that back for several days and have only soft released that information over the course of about the past 36 hours, generally, that it was, without a question, a Russian drone that had conducted the attack on the Leipzig airfield. So the fact that they're right now saying, oh, a couple of drones were spotted over a repair facility in Western Germany, and they're not really giving a whole bunch of information, is making me believe that these are 100% Russian drones, considering that we saw the very same statements being made by German police during the Leipzig attack, and they only released the information days later that they were in fact Russian drones, or that they were highly likely affiliated with the Russian
Oh,
Federation.
yeah. And you know that NATO has to know whether or not there's Russian ships off the coast. Like they know if there's ships off the coast. That's not something that's secret to the NATO countries, especially Germany as well. They know if they're out there. So I would suspect that these countries probably know who's launching them and they probably know where they're coming from too. But just like the last time that we saw these attacks, they like to keep that stuff secret so that way they don't tell the public about it and they don't cause panic, and that way they don't have to force a response to the aggression. So I would really be shocked if Germany didn't know who was behind it.
I would agree. And also, I saw some people say, well, why in the world would the Russians have to conduct reconnaissance with drones over a facility like that? What, are satellites totally useless? And that is a great question. But there is a facet to reconnaissance that isn't just about taking a look at, say, the pictures that you get of that facility from, from say an outer space orbit. The one more important thing that they could be getting from reconnaissance, if this was a reconnaissance operation that was conducted last night, is what does the security response look like to a drone incursion? And that is something very important because clearly these drones were apparently intended to be seen because they spotted 6 of them over the facility overnight. And it's highly likely, considering the important work that this facility is doing, that it is of vital importance to the state in Germany that that facility remains operational. Which, if we understand that that is the case, and also it's an incredibly important facility for the whole of Europe, then there definitely has to be some level of kinetic security, most likely armed guards, around this facility. And how many of them are there, and what are they equipped with? And when you fly a drone over the facility, those security forces are going to end up deploying around a perimeter around this facility, and that could be giving the Russians vital information about what kind of actual security forces are there and how strong they are. And depending on how strong they are, they can then figure out, well, if we really wanted to knock out that facility in a first strike, we know that we would need to send at least 4 or 5 drones of this certain design and this certain type to attack this facility to possibly overwhelm their ground defenses that they have around it, and therefore knocking out and depriving this repair facility from being operational. So I would generally have to say that's probably the reconnaissance that they're trying to get, because you can't get that from satellite. They don't deploy the security forces on the ground when the satellite takes a picture of the place, but when a drone flies over and the drone is seen, they will. And that gives very clear reconnaissance and information on what kind of a security situation may exist and how close a drone might be able to get before the alarms are sounded inside that
Yeah.
facility and possibly throughout the whole of Germany.
Also, I see Ghost Hunter in the live chat. He said that's actually a good theory, Matt. Can the submarines launch drones at NATO countries? And I don't think they can. I don't think that's a capability yet to be able to launch large fixed-wing drones from a submarine. First of all, the submarine would have to surface. It obviously could not stay submerged and launch the drone. That's an obvious limitation there with that. But I don't think there's a way to do it because it's like, how do they get the drones like attached to actually launch them from the top of the sub, even if it is surfaced? And also, I mean, usually, I mean, how do they even get the drone up to the surface of the submarine? I mean, that's a question there. So I don't think that's an ability. If they're being launched, they're probably most likely being launched from some disguised cargo ship, most likely, or maybe possibly a Russian military ship, or one or the other. That's two possibilities. I would say if China is behind it, which I would say at this point, I think Russia's probably behind it, but if China was behind it, it would definitely be a disguised cargo ship. China showed off that capability before to the media that they have disguised vessels that can launch attack drones from it. And that could have been who was partially behind it the last time we saw the attacks happen. But this time it's so vague right now, it's kind of hard to tell.
It is kind of hard to tell, but to give you a little bit of information on the last kinds of launches we saw, a Rapucha class landing ship, very similar in hull design and profile as this one, was actually spotted anchored off of the coast of Germany. I believe it was here within this area. I forgot the name of it, but it's south of this Langerlandstadt, or whatever that's called. But it was somewhere in this area right here, and it was actually, from what we understand, launching large-scale drones into Germany and also throughout the larger part of Northern Europe, including Denmark a multitude of times, and also the Netherlands and Belgium as well. So there is a possibility that could be a case with this one, that another ship is just anchored right off of the German coast outside of their territorial waters and are launching these recon drones, or it could be the other option, and I think this one's a little bit more likely, that it is the FSB operatives on the ground that just conducted the Leipzig attack, and they've now traveled across the country west and are now trying to conduct reconnaissance flights or possible attack flights over this repair facility in Western Germany. Or there may be multiple teams involved in this. It's very hard to say, but that would be my running theories at the moment as to what is going on inside of Western Germany. But moving us on out of all of this news within the whole of Germany, we've also been able to hear more intelligence reports that came out from the United States today in Eastern Europe, or more so about Eastern Europe and the NATO frontier, about what could be coming up here within the near future. As it has also been added that according to U.S. intelligence reports that were apparently anonymously reported to the Wall Street Journal, Russian President Vladimir Putin could try to test NATO's resolve with limited assault on an allied country in the next few years, according to new U.S. intelligence reports that posit possible scenarios ranging from a cyber attack to a small-scale land incursion. The possible threats range from a cyber attack on a NATO country or sending unmarked armed groups to occupy territory to a limited incursion on the alliance's eastern flank. The time frame for any move by Russia is estimated to happen between this fall and 2029. Most European intelligence agencies are stating that it's most likely going to be happening this fall and not any time later. We're not entirely sure if those intelligence reports are just putting out the tentative earliest date or if they have some sort of a time window as well, but generally most European intelligence reports from Poland, the UK, the European Union, and also Baltics intelligence are generally saying that the time frame starts and ends within the fall of this year. The likelihood
Yeah,
of the
that's bad. That's bad too, because it's like, for all these different intel agencies to be agreeing on the same assessment that Putin's planning on attacking the Baltic states or some NATO countries. I mean, that's one of the very few times that all these agencies are actually on the same page like that. They may differ on the time frame of when it's going to happen, but they're all agreeing that Putin is going to attack. So that's one of the first very cohesive across the board, confirmations that Putin is planning to do something. And also, if U.S. intelligence is saying it and they're saying it publicly, and we're also seeing it being reported in the mainstream media, they are clearly hearing something very, very coherent out of some source inside of Russia that he is planning on actually pulling something off. So it must be like getting toward the final planning stage for it to be this flagrant like this. It must be getting toward that point, which is concerning because it's like, we're already seeing the drone show up in Germany. We're seeing these missiles flying into Poland. So it's like, what is he actually planning on doing, actually? Is it going to be like a ground invasion or what are we looking at?
I would say it's quite concerning because the fact that they are all are on board in this very same way and making it incredibly clear that it is coming around at the earliest this fall, that is something incredibly concerning because it's showing folks that whatever is going on in the background that they're not really letting us know about, at least publicly. We generally know of a great deal publicly out here, folks. Like we get a lot of what is happening for the larger part, but apparently there's some additional markers that they're looking at that are showing something so clear and so obvious at some level in Russia that there is going to be a provocation coming in the future. And the fact that quite literally everybody's agreeing on that so far is something that's incredibly concerning because that's showing that it's so obvious, literally nobody is missing it. So we don't know what is going to really happen when it comes into the fall. Most Baltic states are saying that it's most likely going to be some sort of a direct drone attack, a missile attack, or even a ground incursion. So they're going with extreme threats, generally direct threats to their sovereignty or direct attacks against critical infrastructure happening in the fall, while the U.S. report, well, I almost choke on spit right there. I don't know why, but
Oh
man,
man.
man, I'm telling you, man, it was a struggle right there. But outside of that, while the U.S. report is saying that it could happen anytime between the fall of this year and 2029. But it could range from quite literally anything to something somewhat mundane like a cyber attack or something a little bit more escalatory like a limited incursion, although it doesn't really describe what a limited incursion will look like. So quite a concerning security report, or more so an intelligence report, that has come out of Latvia at this point. And moving us on out of the Baltic states and on down into Slovakia and down towards Bratislava, we also were able to hear of a report of an explosion and a fire at a Slovakian oil refinery in Bratislava, which is the capital, at the Slovnaft oil refinery. We can actually see the fire there in the distance in this brief video taken by a civilian within the area.
Why that dude's wiping the microphone was loud. It sounded like there was something happening.
And that guy sounded like he was sniffing it, man. Like he went, man, it's like, dang, man, he's sniffing strong, man, damn. But
And what's the site again right here?
this is the Slovnaft refinery in Bratislava in Slovakia. So it's believed. Let me see. Here it is. This is actually the refinery right here. It's kind of believed that this might be some sort of Russian sabotage.
Interesting. He said the Snob, what was it called?
It's called the Slovnaft refinery.
Okay, Slavnov. There we go. The other pronunciation wasn't quite right, but that's good to get a good correction on it.
Well, I got to tell you, I think I said it the right way the first time, but if I said it
Not
wrong,
saying me, man.
oh, I thought you meant me, man. I was like, man, I didn't say that way. I said Slavnov, man. Like, I was like, damn, bro, I don't know what you heard. But outside of that, though, it is believed that this might be some sort of an attempt at Russian sabotage. But we're not entirely sure. Incidents like these do happen from time to time, and I want to make that somewhat clear. So on this one, it's not exceptionally clear if the Russians were involved yet. We will have to wait for the investigation that the Slovakian authorities are going to conduct to see if they find any proof or evidence of sabotage, and then we'll be able to circle back to the story and give you all the clarification. But moving us on out of Bratislava inside of Slovakia and bringing us on back into the general situation on the eastern flank of NATO, a lot of people are hearing that the United States intelligence reports coming out today have started to paint a very concerning and, in some cases, a grim picture on the eastern frontier and also inside of Germany. As U.S. intelligence not only stated that in Germany, the drones that were used in the Leipzig attack were definitely Russian, but they've also stated as well that the Russian Federation may be planning to conduct some sort of a provocation between the fall of this year and 2029 that could range from anything to a limited ground invasion of the eastern flank of NATO all the way down to a cyber attack. And the fact that a lot of people are talking about this right now leads us to wonder what y'all are thinking. And Matthew, what are people thinking about this? And what are you thinking about it as well?
Okay, so not only is German intel suggesting that the explosive drone found at Germany's airport that was apparently planning to attack a Ukrainian aircraft that was on the runway, and also apparently crashing into a cargo plane at the same time, U.S. intel is now officially linking that drone to Russia's government. So, I mean, that's about as clear as it gets. So, do you think Putin will do worse beyond this very large provocation? And 73% said yes, he will do worse soon. About 10% said no, this is about as extreme as Putin can get without starting an actual war, and 9% said Putin will be ousted soon before he can do anything worse. So, with all these intel reports lining up that Putin is the one sending these drones apparently into these different places like Germany, also we're seeing the Baltic states and other places get threatened and also warning that they're about to get attacked by Russia directly. This is the biggest sign that we have that the U.S. should go full 100% behind Ukraine support and make sure they can win the war. I would say that at this point, it's very clear that they should go all the way behind Ukraine and also give them patriots too to defend their skies. But we're really not seeing that a whole bunch. That's kind of interesting with that. It's like if all these different warning signs are going off all at the same time, then why would the U.S. act like this is not an issue and kind of take a backseat role to it if they know this is the case? Because eventually, this is going to end up hurting like innocent people. Like the drone that hit that cargo aircraft could have easily hit a passenger aircraft very easily. And if that happened and the plane ended up crashing, that's possibly 200 lives down the drain because NATO was taking a weak approach and the U.S. didn't fully go all the way behind Ukraine support. So the stakes are getting raised, and Putin is the one raising the stakes. He's raising it because the war is not going his way. He's very close to having the public turn on him, and also his economy is going down the toilet. So that's why he's doing stuff like this. He's conducting hybrid warfare at a level that's never been seen before, and that's what we saw there at the German airport, and now U.S. Intel is confirming it. So unfortunately, I hate to be in the negative camp with this, but 73% they said yes, he'll do worse soon. I would agree with those 73%. I think unfortunately he is going to do worse soon, and he really has no option at this point. He's going to do it out of pure desperation. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to be with the 73% as well. I think that at this point the Russians are in a very desperate spot, and also their wild card action, which would be a war with NATO, is becoming more and more possible because NATO continues to do absolutely nothing in response to any provocation that the Russians are conducting. Do y'all know something that's really fascinating, folks? Like, I find this very fascinating because back in the beginning of the channel's history, I used to be able to quote and cite historically a whole load of wars from a multitude of different eras in history to be able to pull up historical examples of what was happening during the first 4 years of the channel. Really, over the past 6 months, I just have to keep pulling example from the Second World War because everything that's happening right now is quite literally what we would say are the twilight hours of the Second World War in Europe, with the German prelude to the invasion of Poland and also the Anschluss and the annexations that were conducted beforehand. And then also on top of that, additional actions that were taken by the Germans as far as what the Russians are doing. There are so many similarities at this point that it's really hard to cite any other historical period rather than the Second World War. And to bring up a historical example I think is very important at this point is not really the one of appeasement, because we've run that one into the ground generally here on the channel about how Europe and generally the whole of NATO and the Western world keeps appeasing the Russian Federation, and that keeps leading them in a sense to try and escalate even farther. I'm going to bring y'all to a different example. I'm going to bring y'all to one that actually is in the east of Europe, which was between the Soviets and the Germans in 1941. Soviet intelligence had been telling Stalin for months before Operation Barbarossa was kicked off that the Germans were building up forces along the shared Soviet-German border and that they were going to be conducting a full-blown invasion of the Soviet Union at some point in the future. Because Stalin didn't want to believe that, and he also didn't want to upset the balance of things with the Germans because he thought they were still not going to do anything extremely aggressive. I mean, after all, it's a little thing that they did. They invaded Poland together. It was a nice little deal. They're not ever going to do anything to the Soviet Union, and they're not going to invade. And so literally up until the very last hours before Nazi Germany kicked off Operation Barbarossa, the Soviet government was in this position of let's not do anything at all. We're just going to sit back and just keep everything fine and dandy. And one thing that they don't tell you folks in the history books, the additional details, is that the Germans had conducted tiny little raids across the border to see how far they could get before Operation Barbarossa was kicked off. Have you ever heard about that, Matthew?
I don't think so. I don't think I have.
Yeah, they would actually conduct little raids across the German-Soviet border in Poland, and they would go over there and they'd nab a couple of Soviet soldiers and they'd bring them back and they'd interrogate them and get information out of them. And every once in a while, a few times, the Germans would get caught doing it. And the German soldiers that were conducting these little raids, they were given orders to generally use as little lethal force as possible, shooting people. They were generally just trying to grab people and bring them back across to interrogate them and see if they could find anything out from them. But every once in a while, the Soviet commanders on that front would end up capturing a couple of Germans, and they would interrogate them. And those Germans started to paint a scene that made it incredibly clear that a war was coming. And that's where the Soviet intelligence, the NKVD, got the info to tell Stalin there's definitely a war coming around. They're planning on invading us sometime in the latter part, well, in the midsummer of 1941. And they still wouldn't believe it until the Germans invaded them. And it was the fact that the Soviet Union was so passive and inactive and just continue to let these provocations go without doing anything back to the
Oh
Nazi
yeah.
Germans, which is what enticed Hitler to say, you know what, I think we actually could invade them and win because they're not even prepared for us to go to war with them right now.
Yeah, that's what I don't think NATO's understanding this. I don't think the U.S. is understanding this either. When a country like Russia starts crossing certain boundaries, like they're doing right now, it's almost like a shark smelling blood. It's like once it smells the blood, it's going for that victim at that point. It's not going to stop. It's going to attack wherever that blood came from, and that's where we're at with Russia right now. They've smelled the blood in the water, and the Putin regime's understanding that they're able to push the boundaries further and further back. So I mean, why wouldn't they keep going for it? It's not like he has another option. And right now, NATO's not making it very expensive to start attacking, NATO territory. They're not. Right now, it's very cheap for Putin to pull that off because there's really no consequences to it. He can just simply launch hybrid attacks, and NATO's going to sit back and keep taking it over and over and over. And Putin's clearly escalating each and every time. Like he'll launch a missile, then it's ignored. Then he'll launch a drone at a German airport, and it crashes into a cargo plane. Then it's ignored there too. It's like, I mean, he's going to keep going until it gets worse and worse, and then innocent people are going to get on the receiving end of that. And what are we going to do then? Is that going to be the trigger that causes an actual war at that point? Is because civilians end up dying from an attack from Russia? It's like, are we really waiting for that?
Honestly, I don't know. And another thing that the Russians are probably looking at this point, they're going, damn, we can do anything. I mean, we fired a cruise missile into Poland, they did nothing. We attempted to get a drone all the way to Bucharest, and Romania did nothing. And now we've tried to attack the Leipzig airport, and the German response is non-existent. And we can fly reconnaissance flights over some of the most important and vital facilities for the sustainment of air defense ops over the whole of Europe, and they're still doing nothing. We might be able to get a decisive first strike in against them and knock out most of their sustainment capabilities at the very opening hour of the conflict, and they'd probably be in such a bad position because of that, they might just negotiate with us if we invade them, and we might be able to
Maybe.
see that we're in a great position.
Maybe so. I see some people saying, why is Putin escalating like this? I saw Sunflower Eyes in the chat say that and ask that question. The reason why he's escalating is because the war is in a stalemate. Russia can't make any progress on the front lines, no matter how much assistance they get from North Korea or any foreign country. They are not making frontline progress. And while they're stalling out like that, the Ukrainians are hitting their refineries and all their economic targets inside of mainland Russia at an accelerated rate, and it's only speeding up. It's not slowing down. So it's like a ticking clock right now on the Russian government. Basically, they know that their time is coming close to being over with for the most part, because once the economy implodes, that regime is in extreme peril once that takes place, because everybody's going to be looking at Putin as the cause why the economy failed, because he's the one that led them into the war, he's the one that kept it going, and he's the one that brought the entire Russian Federation to the brink of collapse. So Putin knows that if it gets to that point where the economy fails and it falls, he's going to be looking at an overthrow like the USSR. That's what he's going to be looking at. So his idea is, if he starts escalating on NATO and trying to scare off the NATO governments, like for example Germany, Poland, etc., and makes it very costly for them to keep supporting Ukraine, then just maybe they'll stop supporting Ukraine, and then he'll get the advantage that he needs to try to defeat Ukraine. That's what he's hoping for. It's escalate to de-escalate. It's the old USSR strategy that Putin's trying to employ in 2026.
And the reality is, folks, is that the only way to counter that is that we have to meet him at the head. Staying backed off like this and staying as non-escalatory and non-confrontational as possible is only enticing them and encouraging them to start working towards a major strike campaign, because they're seeing that we're so relaxed in this whole situation that they can get off a decisive first strike against key facilities in Europe that would leave us so screwed over, depending on the attacks they would conduct afterwards, that we would really have no option but to negotiate with them and go, okay, what do you want? Like, if you want us to stop supporting Ukraine, we can stop supporting Ukraine. You want us to lift all the sanctions? We can lift all the sanctions. We can do that. Because, y'all kind of got us by the balls at this point. We really don't want to get into a nuclear war with y'all, because y'all are absolutely crazy and y'all are kind of making it clear that y'all be willing to do that. Instead of being in that position, we need to say, this stops here. Like, that is the last drone that is flying over NATO territory. If another drone flies over NATO territory, we're flying drones over Russian territory, and we will be conducting
Oh
reciprocal
no.
damage.
And I wouldn't say to do that because Russia's not going to really care. I mean, they'll care. Obviously, they'll try to shoot the drone down if you try to send it toward their territory. But I think NATO should take a much stronger approach to this. The fact that they're able to prove that it's Russian, that's good enough to say and give Putin an ultimatum. It doesn't necessarily have to be a public ultimatum. It could be behind closed doors if they want to use it in a private way. They could simply tell Russia, if you do something like this again and you start putting civilians in danger, then Kaliningrad's at risk if you keep doing that. Because we're gonna assume that you have intentions to invade us at some point, and we're going to start taking preemptive actions on Kaliningrad to cut it off and potentially seize it to go ahead and prepare for that war if you want to keep this going like this. That's the ultimatum I would personally give, because Kaliningrad is going to be very useful in a war for Russia, and that's probably going to be the first place to start trying to invade is near the Suwalki Gap to keep that open. That's probably going to be where it's at. And we do know that NATO has plans to start seizing the Suwalki Gap and the Kaliningrad area. They have plans to do that, and it's apparently prepared. So I mean, that's all they have to do is simply threaten something like that and say, hey, look, we're actually going to start doing stuff like that moving toward it if you keep this up.
Well, I would say that some that probably like I was trying to add a little bit more there. I'd say we'd start flying drones across their border into Russia, and I would also add that NATO forces be forward deployed to create almost a front line in a sense directly against Russia's borders in Finland, the Baltics, and Kaliningrad, to where when they make the first step, because NATO is a defensive alliance after all, and we can't really conduct offensive operations as a preemptive defensive, so we have to kind of wait for them to strike. But we need to get NATO on the same page and also have forces forward deployed to where if a conflict does begin, the Russians would already understand that frontline force, well, generally fighting forces are already on the front, which is the border, and they're not going to be fighting from wherever the front solidifies in NATO. They're going to be fighting the front from the border on into NATO, which is a position that would be very costly for them. That's what I would say to do, because saying that we would cut off Kaliningrad is generally an act of war. So it's not really preparing for the war, it's generally starting the war, and also having NATO kick off on one solid foot on an offensive when there's no provisions written in the NATO charter to conduct an offensive conflict or an offensive action would be pretty difficult. So we could try and set ourselves up to immediately conduct an offensive once they attack us, but we would have to let them, in a sense, kind of get off that first shot on NATO forces.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. I'm saying they should go ahead and start putting the plans into motion to start seizing Kaliningrad. That's what I'm saying. They should tell Putin, look, we'll start moving toward that if you keep this up. Like if you start doing this escalations on the civilians and hybrid warfare, we'll start moving in. Basically replicate exactly what Russia did to Ukraine before they invaded. They started deploying a whole bunch of troops to the borders of Ukraine and claiming it was a training exercise. I would do the exact same thing that Russia did to Ukraine on Kaliningrad. I would start moving the troops in under the guise of a training exercise and tell Putin, hey, look, we've got these people on the border right here. If you want to keep this up, we're going to take a defensive action against Kaliningrad. So it's your choice. Do it again and face the consequences and see if Putin wants to cross the line. If he's willing to cross that line, then there's NATO's answer for them. He's clearly wanting to start a war if he goes that far.
I would agree. You know, something else I would add. I would also like. I wouldn't give any behind closed doors threats. I would make them all overt at this point to make it clear to the public in the West as well how close we're getting. Because having the public kind of be left in the dark about what's going on, and then the war starts one day, everyone's going to go, "Where did this come from?" So I think at this point, it's very important to keep the public apprised. So that way, if a war begins, they understand the transgressions Russia has made, our responses to them, and also the buildup that led to the conflict. But another important thing that I think we should add is to give an overt threat to the Russians that if a drone looks to be entering NATO airspace, if it's within 5 miles of NATO airspace or crosses the border, it will immediately be shot down. If Russian border guards cross a NATO border, they will be fired upon, and there will be no attempt to try and negotiate them back across the border. We'll wipe them out if necessary. To start making it very clear that we are willing to go to war, and we will go to war if we have to. So the Russians better understand to either back off or that they're going to be getting into the war that they're looking at, and we're going to be ready for it instead of being unprepared.
Yeah, got to be strong with them, definitely, because being spineless clearly hasn't worked, not at all. At this point, they're moving forward with more escalation. So if NATO thinks it's going to prevent a war, go ask Neville Chamberlain. That doesn't prevent anything.
Or go ask Stalin. Or go ask FDR about Japan. There's a literal endless amount of examples from the Second World War. It's like, he literally asked anybody from the Second World War, hey, were you ready for, like, the ass whipping that someone tried to put on you? No. It's like, well, that's why we have to always be ready, folks. And that's also why we have to work from a position to where if it looks like the Russians are about to go to war with us, we need to be ready to go to war with them instead of them catching us off guard. Because also another thing, folks, is that people are saying, well, it's expensive to forward deploy forces. Yes, it is, but we really don't have any choice right now, do we? Because if we don't forward deploy forces, we're enticing the Russians into going to war with NATO, which is going to become even more expensive than forward deploying forces. If we forward deploy forces, we might give enough of a deterrent that they don't attack at all. And that, in the long run, would be a cheaper alternative than a full-blown world war where we're fighting the Russians alongside the rest of NATO. So with that, I hope that addresses that the best I can, at least in my opinion. And with that, it's time for us to move on and into the news from inside of Russia, and also the occupied territories. Because we were able to hear over the course of this day, folks, that there has been a major and whopping drone attack that has been conducted against the Russian Federation. But before we get on into the interior of Russia, the Siberian region, Western Russia, and whatnot, I want to bring y'all down to the coastline area between Yalta and Novorossiysk. We have seen that there has been a humongous attack by Ukrainian naval drones over the course of this night that has resulted in tremendous damage, particularly at Yalta and also around the area of Novorossiysk, to merchant ships that were a part of the Russian Shadow Fleet that were waiting in their anchorages to be able to enter the ports of Glenchik and Novorossiysk. Moving us over to Yalta first and covering this information here, we were able to see smoke that was rising from the waterfront and the piers down near Yalta. Let's take a little gander at this. It's quite thick.
Oh, wow. I think the Russians said that they didn't ever hear an explosion, but, I think there had to have been an explosion, or otherwise, how did the smoke get here? It wasn't like the magic bullet.
Man, they said, there's no explosion, but weirdly enough, there's like a whole fuel depot that got like obliterated down there. No idea how. It's like, man, it's like, come on. It's like, that's cheap.
Oh, yeah. It's like, what is it, the Russian general's hotboxing or something? It's like, what are they doing in there?
I mean, really? I mean, look at this. Like, it was thick. This stuff's thicker than a bowl of oatmeal.
Thick.
Man, thick. Well, let's see when the world could have been on the Yalta coast that was burning this badly. So let's see here. Oh, what do we got? We got a nice little restaurant right here. The old Promenade Appelson. Wow, it actually does look quite nice, actually. Man, this must be where all of those Russian vacation goers go to have their nice little vacation. Oh, boy. Well, let's see what else do we have in here. Looks like mostly resorts. Oh, wait a minute. What is this? This looks like a little cargo port. That might be what was hit, maybe, but it looked like it actually came from the middle of the built-up area of the city. So I'm not really entirely sure what they were attempting to go for here, but we will show y'all. Because the Ukrainians actually published all the footage of the attack, so there really is no point in asking the question, well, what did they hit? We know what they hit. The drone attack boats came in and did some damage. So here's the clip. And we're going to mute that.
Oh, I thought it was a voicemail for a minute. I was like, oh, hello.
Yeah, boop. Bro, I was like, oh man, good. That's just the one noise. That's not copyrighted. I love it. Man, I was like, man, we
Man,
gonna
look
have to
at
mute
these.
it.
Look at these Ukrainians out here with their drones enjoying I will say this looks like a decent like coastal vacation spot right here. Also, these waves are pretty crazy too. This thing bobbing around.
Man, it was kind of choppy out here up in this Sevastopol Bay.
Yeah, they were showing up to chop it up with the Russians. Oh, look, they got a little barrier or something up. What's that to keep is that to keep something out like sharks or something?
Oh, wait a minute. Is that a load of beachgoers over there? Do you see that when it zooms in? Oh, it's just a bunch of clutter, actually. I was about to say, is there a lot of people out at the beach? Nah, most of them left and went back to Russia because there's no gas left in Crimea. Ain't got no gas in it.
I'm just saying I would know as a swimmer if I saw like a drone bobbing and weaving around like that. They kind of looked like it was in like the military gray color. That's probably my cue to get out of the water. This thing's more dangerous than the great white that's swirling around.
Oh, there are some people out there on the pier, too. Look at that. What is this drone going for, I wonder? It just keeps skirting by the beach. Letting everyone have fair warning to get out
There's
of
a
there.
fat, risky general hanging around somewhere, floating around like a whale.
Man, nothing but blubber. like a giant flotation device.
Shamu gone rogue, Ukrainian style. It looks like. Oh, we got a second feed here.
Oh man, What's the second feed about? Yo, chat, this is sick, chat. Oh, man. Oh, look, they're passing that restaurant that I pointed out on the satellite view. You know, that one that was on the pier. So they just passed that. Now we see the camera continuing to gimbal. Looking around for something in particular here. It's like a hunter. It's hunting.
They
It's
could
like
just
that.
be surveying the real estate on the coast since they're going to retake Crimea eventually. They're trying to survey it and see who's going to get divvied up, what resort goes to who, and stuff like that.
Oh, look, it's
It's
turning
like one of those
away.
virtual house tours that realtors take you on these days. They said, "Look, you want to see the house? We'll put you on FaceTime." Well, they put them on a little drone right here.
Man, that's kind of wild, man. But man, it's a very interesting sort of a thing there. They didn't really hit anything. They just kind of wandered in, looked around, and left. It still doesn't explain, folks, what blew up along the coastline, but it does give us a little bit of a look on the Ukrainian side of the incident. Moving us on out of that and further along the coastline, we were able to hear that 3 Russian ships had been hit within the area between Yalta and Novorossiysk over the course of the day, and we got a lot of footage of apparently 2 of them that were hit around Galenchik and Novorossiysk. So getting us on into that footage here really quickly, we were able to see one clip that came from very close to the coast. This thing pulled up looking like a ghost ship. Yar, they got that scurvy on that thing, boy.
The fire was an improvement. Oh.
Oh, whoa, look at that boiler. Whoa. Moving aside from that and on into the next clip, we also were able to see that another ship was burning out at sea. This one different than the last, apparently.
I mean, I've heard of sparklers and fireworks, but that looks like a torch.
You know, I've heard of a Viking funeral where they catch the boat on fire and push it out into the water, but this is kind of going a little far. Really decadent Gen Zers, stupid kids. But anyway, we actually got a video from on board that ship that we just showed y'all of the crew running around after the drone hit. So here's the clip. Some shrapnel damage to the floor. Also looks like for some reason there was some potting soil that got flung around. Don't know where that came from, but
They were so scared they took a poop on the poop deck.
bro, man, they said, man, this stuff is so wild. I gotta take a shit. It's like, bro, man, so now they're out on the deck. We see the dirt
Ugh,
water everywhere.
Jeez. Yeah, really. That's like sewer water.
There's the motor of the drone, actually. You can see that right there. Look at that little drone motor.
Oh, no. Oh, man. It's going to start cussing.
Looks like
I love
also,
how everybody's first reaction is to go out here and film the damage and the poop water on the deck. It's like, that's everybody's first reaction these days. It's not really like, make sure your comrades are okay. It's like, whip out the phone and start recording and then upload it to like Telegram or something.
man, also, man, by outside of that, it looks like they're having a gender reveal up there on the top decks. And surprise, folks, it's the president. But moving aside from that, we also got to see another clip of the ship burning out here at sea. This one's largely a duplicate of the last clip, but we also got another one closer to Galenchik. And these 2 pictures here showed us this very same vessel after it drifted closer to shore, continuing to burn, and we're not entirely sure how the damage control efforts were going at this point, but it looks like this ship was knocked out along with the other one, which was literally burning right along the coast at Novorossiysk. So quite an interesting sort of an attack to see, and it also appears that this is one of the larger attacks that Ukrainian naval drones have conducted, at least recently. We've seen a lot of aerial drone attacks within this area that have resulted in a large amount of vessels being lost, but we have not seen naval drones conduct these attacks up until today at this sort of a scale. And it looks like they're really starting to take on the mantle of continuing on the ship attacks against the Russians, and they were able to knock out 3 of them over the course of this day. And so, folks, it's time for us now to briefly move on out of the European region and on down into the Middle Eastern region to cover all the news that came from down here. Now, before we get to this, folks, I do have to say humongous thanks to everybody who has been watching so far tonight. We're entirely honored and greatly appreciative of each and every single one of y'all watching. It's an absolute honor and a pleasure to know that so many people continue to come to this channel every single day and consider this channel to be their primary source of news. I also have news to tell y'all folks. We have a number of live viewers, 16.3, that have been here at the peak tonight, but I've looked and it looks like that might not be the accurate number, because I went and checked last night's stream and it looks to be that we reached a peak, according to all accounts last night, of 16.1 thousand people. But YouTube's saying today, when I go and look at the analytics, that there was actually 17,000 people on the stream last night.
Oh,
So
they're screwing us.
it looks like that glitch is happening again, man. I went and literally looked at that and I was like, oh, look at that. Like, here, I'll actually show you folks, because, like, Playboard is the ratings website that I always go to look at, and they show exactly what I thought was last night's number, about 16.1. It's about 20 below it, but I said on air last night there were 16.1 thousand people live. When I go and look at YouTube, however, it shows 16.9. Make that make sense. Like, it literally is like a discrepancy of almost 1,000 people. So there are probably a lot more of y'all here tonight than we can even see according to the YouTube stats. There were probably about 17.1 thousand of y'all, or 17,000 of y'all here at the peak. But nevertheless, regardless whether the number is accurate or not, we do thank y'all incredibly for watching. We're always honored and greatly appreciative to know that all of y'all spend so much of your time here every single day, and I hope that our news coverage so far has been pretty well analyzed, sourced, and reported. And before we move on into the Middle East, which luckily, folks, there wasn't any, like, extremely huge updates out of it today, rather than, like, Mujtaba might be dying. Like, that's maybe our only major update. But outside of that, it's going to be fairly smooth sailing today, just the usual crap that goes on down there. But before we get to it, I do want to make sure to, I mean, man's like, we got big news from the Middle East. It's like, well,
Yeah, you don't want to minimize our news. So you don't want to minimize it.
well, I mean, I'm trying to be honest with the folks. I'm an honest man. I'm an honest man, and honestly, folks, like, I think that Mujtaba dying is like mid-level news. Like, honestly, like, if he is dying, it's like, it might be a big thing when it's announced, but him in the process of dying is like a mid-range thing to me. But beyond that, though, before we get to all that, I do want to make sure that we get 3 questions from the chat, and then we'll be covering all of the rest of the news for the night. So, Matthew, what do we got here?
All right, so jumping into our first super chat, this one goes to Earth Machinist, who puts in a very generous $100 support. And thank you very much, Earth Machinist, for putting in that generous support and helping to keep the channel running once again tonight. And they said, last night you showed wildberries before and after, and both images appear to have been taken from the exact same spot in space, but a geostationary satellite should view it at a noticeable angle from the equator, and the images could have been taken from the X-37 spaceplane.
Oh no, oh no. Let me actually show you. I think it actually has the accreditation on here for it. Yeah, this is from the Planet satellite. But like, what company runs this satellite, Matthew? I'm trying to think of the name of the company.
Planet Labs.
Planet Labs. So Planet Labs is the private company that runs this satellite, and people can actually pay money for the Planet Labs satellite to go over an area and take a picture of it. So I believe the satellite actually conducts an orbit around the Earth, and so it passes over the air, like the Earth in an orbit every like 12 to 15 minutes, because that's usually how fast normal orbits are, if I'm not mistaken. If they're in outer space orbit, it could be a good bit longer. But it came through one day and took a picture of it, and then it came through and took a picture the next day. So this was not the X-37, because Planet Labs would not have access to X-37 photography. And also the X-37, it's a nifty little creature. The X-37 doesn't just take photographs, it's got so many cool little things that it can do. They can actually put an arm in this thing, kind of like the Canadarm that's used on the International Space Station, and they can actually mess with the enemy satellites with this thing, which is kind of neat. Like, they can mess with the wiring, or they can literally use the claw to kind of like rip into it a little bit. But another cool thing that the arm can do is that they can actually use kinetic force to grab the satellite and quite literally chuck it down into the Earth's atmosphere and burn it up in a re-entry, which is kind of also a cool fact about this thing as well. Generally, like, the X-37 is very versatile, but sadly, the X-37 was not involved in the photography of the Alexan wildberries from yesterday. That would actually be the Planet Labs satellite, and sadly, I don't know the
Or at least it
exact type.
appears. At least it appears to be the Planet Labs. I'm not sure if Planet Labs actually operates the satellites or not. If you go look at that picture you just showed there a second ago, their logo's in the top left corner of that image over there. So it probably was their imagery, I'd imagine, based on the logo being there. That seems to suggest that. And also the dates over there in the right corner, it looks to match up. But there's a lot of different satellite providers out there that generally provide commercial satellite data, and then the military has their own that they also get stuff from too.
Yeah, like that's true. That's true. I'm trying to see what satellites Planet Labs has. Well, let me just pull
I
up their
think they have the
website.
CubeSat. I think they might have a CubeSat or something like that. Those little small little cube satellites that take images. I think.
They do actually. I saw those just a second ago. Wait, hang on. There's something down here in the bottom. Oh yeah, it says Planet Labs PBC copyright. So this looks to be Planet Labs. Like everything about this screams Planet Labs.
It must be then.
Yeah, so it doesn't look like it was an X-37, and also the U.S. military probably wouldn't publish that information because they'd be like, "That's classified." They would pull that little shtick, but still, humongous thanks to you for the incredible support and help with this channel to keep it running, Earth Machinist. And you know something that is neat though, like to just show you, you can actually go to the Planet Labs website. This is their website right here, and you can actually look at getting products like Planet Tasking, Planet Moddering, which
Hey,
is
what are you
high
doing? An ad for them?
well, no, I'm not doing an ad.
What are you doing?
I'm not doing an ad for you, but I'm just explaining how this works. Like, you can get a whole bunch of different services from them, and if you pay them a certain amount of money, because operating the satellites is certainly not cheap, you can actually get the imagery, and then it usually is circulated around the public, especially in the OSINT world, and we all look at it and start breaking it down. But there are a load of different companies that provide this stuff. I think there's a couple of others, and then also there is the nefarious old Chinese satellites, the military satellites, that actually put out information that the Chinese, for some reason, want distributed publicly. But usually that's about U.S. forces, where they are, and what the Chinese satellites can see of them. So I want to make it clear, folks, we are not sponsored by Planet Labs, but I'm just showing how that process works. It's actually a very open and kind of public process to get a lot of their imagery. And another funny fact, not to not move on too fast, is that during the first phase of the Iran war, the U.S. government actually stopped, I think, them and a lot of other companies from publishing satellite photography at all from the Middle East because they were trying to cover up the damage that Iran was causing to U.S. bases. The
Just,
U.S. government
just,
was.
just a delay. It wasn't banned. It was just a delay.
Well, remember, it was a delay at first of 2 weeks, and then they said, we're just not allowing it out at all.
I think it's still just a delay. It's just might be a longer delay.
I'm very sure, I'm very sure. There was a delay that they first announced at the beginning of the Iran war after a couple of missile attacks were causing damage and the satellite pictures were coming out, and they had the 2 week delay. And then I think about a week or a week and a half into that, they then made it a permanent delay where you just couldn't get any satellite photography out of the area, because I remember us talking about that specifically, and then they backed it back down to it's going to be like a 2 week delay or something again. But I'm very certain that at some point in the first phase of the war, they had totally banned imagery from coming out of that area.
Yeah, who knows?
Oh, well, who really does? I mean, who really does, though? But a huge thanks to you once again for support, Earth Machinist. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next super chat goes to Carlos Santiago, who puts in a $100 support. And thank you very much,
Hey!
Carlos, as well, for that generous super chat right there. And we do appreciate that very much, because we say this all the time, like a broken record, but it is that viewer support that keeps us running, and we sincerely do appreciate that. And Carlos said, we have to face reality. The shit has hit the fan, and we should go full speed and support Ukraine and beef up defense of Poland and the Baltics. And I would agree with you 100%, Carlos. I would agree definitely. The news I heard today is that the U.S. is apparently giving about 5,000 Patriot interceptors, or they're going to try to deliver about 5,000 Patriot interceptors to the Middle Eastern countries that are coming under attack from Iran. And my question is, it's like, why are we only focusing on the Middle East and we're totally ignoring Europe? It's like, in my personal opinion, Europe is as equally important, if not more important, than what's happening to the Gulf state countries right now. And we're acting like Europe's really not that significant for the most part, which is kind of a little bit interesting to say the least. So I would agree. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would completely agree with you, Carlos. It is a serious concern and a threat. And I would have to say, I would love to pick which region's more important, the Middle East or Europe. But I'd actually have to say they're equally important, in my opinion, because the Middle East provides the oil for the Western world because they're American aligned for the most part in that area, and Europe also provides a significant money base for the United States to trade with, of which our trade is significant with the Europeans, and that makes them a lot of money, and it makes us a lot of money, because international trade is the biggest money generating sort of a revenue stream for really anybody. That's why the Middle Eastern countries love to export their oil rather than keep it domestically. That's why Russia loves to do the same. That's why China likes shipping their goods abroad to be sold in foreign markets. And that's also why Europe likes to export their cars. And we like to export a whole bunch of goods as well right back to Europe, is because that is a humongous way to make money. And so I would say that Europe is as important as Middle East, and we have to be able to prioritize all three of our major strategic locations on the planet that is not North America: Europe, the Middle East, and also our East Asian allies, because each and every single one of them provides important value in their own ways to the United States, and we also provide value to them, and it's an endless perpetual positive cycle upwards and not stagnation or shrinkage like some people claim. And so I would definitely agree with you. I think that NATO forces should be forward deployed into Poland and the Baltics, and we should start making it exorbitantly clear to the Russians at this point that if they think they have a chance of going to war with NATO and trying to force some concessions, we would rather go to war with them at the very outset, once one Russian boot crosses the border, than sit there and let them get the jump on us and then be screwed in some sense and have to fight to get the ground back. But a humongous thanks to you so much once again for that incredible and massive support, and hopefully we'll see that eventually some leaders somewhere will actually take that mindset. I gotta say, sadly, that Poland did not take that mindset. Poland talked a lot of good talk, and then when it came down to it, they're about as passive or idle as any other European government, which sadly kind of goes to show
Oh,
that
that's that new president. That's that new president they got. Like, I think Poland actually meant what they said before that new guy got into office, and now the new guy is like a little bit on the fence, and he's wanting to pick fights over stupid stuff like the names of units and stuff like that in Ukraine. So I think Poland really meant what it said, but now they have a little interference being run.
Yeah, I think so, actually. I do think so. Like that's it's unfortunate, you know. I don't know why in the world they elected the guy. You know, we just got rid of Orban in Hungary, who was kind of like the main roadblock in the EU. Now we got Naroki, which isn't really like Orban full on, but he has like some of those same foreign policy standpoints where the Russians aren't that bad, and it's like, well, they are that bad. It's like you ought to know that because you're in a country that got steamrolled by them, and then the Soviets killed like 40,000 of your people in a massacre to wipe out any of the Polish leadership that were left behind after they invaded them. So it's like, I don't know, maybe you shouldn't like them. Also, they kind of made you a puppet government throughout the whole of the Cold War, and you only got your independence back when the Soviet Union was falling. So it's like, how good of a nation are the Russians really? They've proven that they'd subjugate you all a million times over. So why in the world think they wouldn't do that this time? They clearly would. Also, another thing to add here really quickly. Let's see. I saw someone say something in the chat. Oh man, I'm just gonna have to move on from it. Sadly, it was a good one, and I was like, oh man, I had a good answer to that. But sadly, I can't find it again, folks. But a humongous thanks to you so much once again, nonetheless, Cario said Santiago, for helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the last question of the segment. Oh wait a minute, no, I know what it was. I know what it was now. Someone said, wait a minute, are you saying that Europe does something? They do nothing for the United States. Let me go pull up U.S. trade partners, because this is the number. This is the number. Boom. The European Union as a bloc is the largest entity that we trade with. Their trade totals in the year of, and let me make sure that this is the year of 2025. Their trade totaled $1.5 trillion with the United States of America in total, in imports and exports between the United States and Europe. It doesn't really matter if there's a trade deficit. That whole thing is stupid. That doesn't mean we're losing money. We're gaining money whether we have a trade deficit or a surplus. But the trade is humongous. Europe provides more monetary value to the United States than any other bloc in the world. The only thing that comes close to the European Union is Mexico and Canada, which have collective trades of $976 billion annually and $877 billion annually. So our allies, as far as the trade that they provide and the money that they make and the money that we make, is extremely large. It's a very mutual relationship, and it's an incredibly important one to support and maintain, because without them, their money is going to go elsewhere and enrich someone else, and their goods are also going to go elsewhere, and we don't really want that. So with that, I hope that does address that the best I can. And with that, it is time for us to move on and into the last question of the segment, and then we're going to be moving on to the rest of the news from around the world.
All right, so this one goes to Marion Deemer, who puts in a $50 support. And thank you, Marion, very much as well for being a longtime channel legend. And we do appreciate $50 support and helping to keep the channel running. And Marion said, Slava Ukraine and Hurum Slava.
And Slava Ukrainian, Hello Slava, and a huge thanks to your support and helping this channel to keep on running, Marion Deemer, because if it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to make this channel possible, we wouldn't be able to keep it running, and none of this would ever have been a reality. We wouldn't be able to keep the lights on here on this channel, and we wouldn't be able to report about the war in Ukraine, the Middle East, East Asia, here on the home front, and everything else. We thank everyone greatly for y'all's time here spent, and also the support that a few of y'all give that help us to keep this channel running for everybody who's watching. So a humongous thanks so much once again, Marion. I hope that does address that incredibly well. And it's now time for us, folks, to move on and into the rest of the news that we have from around the world. We were able to hear within the middle of the East today that in Saudi Arabia, they have announced that they have created a new defensive pact. We heard about this yesterday, so it got officiated today. But Turkey, Saudi Arabia, and Pakistan signed the Mecca Agreement Defense Pact, and any military attack against any of the three countries will be viewed as an attack on all three. This is actually kind of interesting in a whole bunch of ways, because this means that if India attacks Pakistan, Saudi Arabia and Turkey could join the conflict against India. If Saudi Arabia gets attacked by Iran or by proxy forces, Pakistan and Turkey could join the conflict against Iran or proxy forces. If Turkey is ever attacked in the future by Israel, Israel might get jumped by NATO and also Saudi Arabia and Pakistan. So it's a little bit of an interesting kind of a defensive alliance, because to be entirely honest with y'all, outside of Saudi Arabia and Pakistan kind of sharing the equal threat of Iran, really honestly, they're kind of just expanding this defensive alliance into including any eventual conflict that might happen in the Middle East or even within the Indian subcontinent. It's a little bit of an interesting one.
And it's useless too, because none of those countries in that agreement are going to honor the defensive pact. None of them are. I mean, Pakistan hasn't even currently honored their defensive pact with Saudi Arabia. Have you seen Pakistan do anything to the Houthis in Yemen or anybody attacking Saudi Arabia? Have you seen them do anything to the Iranian forces? I haven't seen them do a damn thing. It's like, what goes to the pact if they're not going to act?
Well, the thing about a defensive pact is that you have to be tagged in. Like, you can take unitary action on your own. When?
Remember, Saudi Arabia was asking everybody for help. They sent out an announcement asking the United States for help, asking Pakistan. They were like laundry listing everybody. They were saying, we need help. We're coming under attack. The port on the western side of Saudi Arabia has been hit. And I haven't seen Pakistan do anything. They've been acting like they really don't have an obligation.
I don't remember that. Like, do we have, like, the post for that? Like, I don't remember covering that myself.
It's around here somewhere.
Well, I suppose I'll have to take your word on that in the meantime, but I don't remember ever hearing that before. I remember that the Saudi Arabians were never tagging them in. I think I said, yeah, they never tagged them in. But with the defensive pact, you have to tag in the other partners for them to get involved. They can get involved unilaterally, but I don't really remember the Saudi Arabians trying to tag in Pakistan specifically by saying, hey, you got to honor your agreement. And also Turkey wouldn't join a defensive pact with anyone if the Saudi Arabians already showed that the Pakistanis weren't willing to join, and Saudi Arabia wouldn't be willing to join. But I mean, maybe they did, maybe they didn't. But outside of that, though, it is quite a wild defensive pact, though, just due to the fact of the amount of adversaries and conflicts that could come up in the future, and also due to the fact that Turkey is a NATO state. Turkey made it clear, however, at least according to a statement that came out today, that their defensive agreement with Pakistan and Saudi Arabia does not contradict their NATO commitments, and that they will be trying to balance both NATO commitments and also the new I guess we could say the triple alliance pact that they have currently within the Middle East. While all of that was going on with the Saudi Arabians, the Turks, and the Pakistanis, we also were able to hear that earlier in the day, the Yemeni Houthis did conduct another attack against Yemeni armed forces within the town of Marib. And we also were able to see the aftermath of those ballistic missile strikes that were seen within the city.
اليوم الجمعة الموافق 7 أغسطس الساعة 9 صباحا الحوثي يقوم باستهداف الأحياء المدنية المكتظة بالنازحين في محافظة مأرب.
Moving us on from that and into our next clip, we also were able to get another picture here showing these rising smoke from the ballistic missile strikes that were seen within that area. But moving us on out of that attack that the Yemeni Houthis conducted against the Yemeni armed forces, we also were able to hear that there were 2 large explosions that happened in Hargeisa within the Somaliland. We don't really know a lot about this one. And let me try and mute that a little. There we go. But that's the end of the clip. Not really a lot to see there, and we don't really know what the two explosions were about. Could be the return of the Somali pirates. Yar! But we don't really know. Moving us on out of that whole deal in the Somalilands, we also were able to hear some big news today that apparently, according to a news outlet, the Iran Wire, the leader of Iran, Mujtaba Khamenei, is reportedly in critical condition and is close to passing away, aka dying. So
Oh, they
that's
come out. It's like, why would they come out and say something like that? It's like, I thought they said he was in hiding. I thought that's what he was saying. He was in like a secure location. All those reports have been circulating around that Khamenei, Mujtaba had taken severe damage, apparently in one of those early strikes, and maybe had gotten severely injured. So, I mean, if the Iranians are now saying he's close to death, it's like he surely just didn't catch like some random disease out of the blue or something like that. So it must be true that he was injured.
It could be that he got an infection from one of his wounds, like in the recovery process, and he could be close to death because of infection, maybe. But I wouldn't really doubt it at all. I mean, if he, like, from what we heard initially, folks, in the February 28th strike, he was in the same building that Ali Khamenei was in, and while he wasn't outright killed in the strike, Mujtaba at least, Mujtaba apparently has been alleged to have lost a leg, an eye, and also suffered major damage to one of his arms. So from what we know, he took a significant brunt of some of the explosive force to one side of his body that apparently resulted in one of his legs being lost, an eye being blown out, and also an arm largely being rendered a game arm. So with that kind of amount of injuries, pretty much half of his body on one side, it's not really out of the question that he could end up, say getting an infection from one of his injuries because there's just so many of them, and therefore that increases the chance of a possible infection. And also, if he was treated inside of Iran and he never left, Iranian medicine I haven't really heard is the greatest, even at the highest levels. He could have ended up gotten something like that, and he might be on his way out at this point. But it looks like a lot of people are saying, we'll let this poll marinate for a little while, but a lot of people are saying that he's already dead. That's an interesting one, so we'll have to get back to that poll here in just a moment. But to cover some of the other news that we've seen throughout the area today, we did get to hear that the United States is apparently going to be sending, or has approved the sale of over 5,250 interceptors to Bahrain, Kuwait, Qatar, and the United Arab Emirates for replenishment. Interestingly enough, one country that was not included was Saudi Arabia, and this information came out from Reuters today, just to back up the source. In Saudi Arabia, a report also came out that's making it sound like they have absolutely nothing left. According to some information that came out today from Reuters, Saudi Arabia used about 86% of its stockpile 2,800 PAC-3 interceptors in the first 38 days of combat in the Iran war. After firing roughly 2,400 PAC-3s, the country was reportedly left with only 400 interceptors by April, meaning that the Saudis are quite almost completely out of Patriot interceptor missiles. And that's a little bit interesting to hear that they haven't been given any sales of missiles by the United States. The only countries that were today that were approved was Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, and the UAE. But the Saudis, which only have about 400 left from what we're hearing, have been offered none.
The absurdity of it all, too. It's like the entire world relies on those interceptor missiles. Basically, the entire world runs on them. They all buy them. They all need them to defend their airspace. And meanwhile, the country that makes them is currently not ramping up production enough to keep up with demand of it. It's like, this isn't new. It's like they've known that the Middle East situation was on the verge of going hot and getting really crazy. They still didn't ramp it up. And they knew that Ukraine was in desperate need. They still didn't ramp it up. They know that Europe is selling some of those interceptors to Ukraine and need replenishment, so they still weren't ramping it up. So now we're in the middle of the thick of it, and now they're saying, let's try to ramp it up, which is going to take time, obviously. And selling that many in one go to the Middle East, it's like now Europe's not going to get any more if they need them. It's just like a cascade of bad consequences from a lack of planning.
Yeah, I'd have to say it certainly has to be like a lot of bad planning at this point. I think we've been talking about that a lot on the channel over the past month or really months. It has to be months at this point. But once again, the bad planning is showing through. Also, another thing, folks, is that we know quite clearly that the U.S. is running low on Patriots. Is this to be fulfilled effective immediately, this 5,250? Or is this going to be fulfilled whenever they get the chance? That wasn't really clarified, was it?
Yeah, I don't think it was clarified, actually. I'll do some looking on the side here and see if I can get some more information. They said they were selling those to mainly, what was the state? Bahrain, they say? Bahrain,
Kuwait,
and,
Qatar, and the UAE.
Okay, yeah, I'll do some research and let you know.
And also, I saw someone say, when did they get these 5,000? Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm asking. That's what I'm asking here. When did they get them? It's like, is that like effective immediately whenever we have the chance? Some point in the future, it's like, what are the terms? Because as some of y'all will know, contractual terms are very important to be able to get and understand, because if we said that we're going to provide them to them when we get the chance, that might be in years. If it's effective immediately, that means we're taking 5,250 patriots that we have and we're sending them over there.
So it says the U.S. has approved the sale of 5,250 interceptors to Bahrain, Kuwait, Qatar, and the United Arab Emirates for replenishment. It doesn't say the timeline on it, though. Then at the bottom, it says last month, and keep that in mind, last month, the U.S. Army awarded Lockheed Martin a contract up to 58 billion USD to produce Patriot interceptor missiles. And that's according to Reuters, that was only a month ago that they issued that contract. So, it's wild to me that they waited so late to do something like that. I don't even know if that company has the ability to produce those missiles in large numbers that quickly. It's like, do they have to build new facilities? Do they have to build new factories? Like, what goes into fulfilling that $58 billion contract? It's like, how long is that going to be before we actually get a delivery?
Yeah, honestly. Also, man, I saw someone say this. Oh, it's a classic. I got to get this one. Someone, Asset Reflex said, total munition stockpiles are classified, so we don't really know if we're running low. That's a humongous misnomer. We know that we're running low because there are a lot of civilian officials that are able to listen into these conversations in the White House, and they hear the defense officials that are briefing the president say that we're running low. Those officials, the civilian officials, then go to the press and leak that information anonymously, saying that we're running low. Because almost every single time we've heard a news outlet say that they've gotten an anonymous tip, it is from a U.S. civil official. They never say that it's a military official that's reported that information. That's the reason why we know that we're low, is because of that. Also, another reason why we know we're low is because over the past second phase of the war, when the Iranians would fire a missile, most of them were not really intercepted from what we could tell. A couple of them were by the United States, and a decent amount of them were by Gulf state allies, but there was almost always a hit at every facility that the Iranians were attacking, every wave of attacks in every corner of the Middle East, which is clearly showing that they're having to prioritize and deprioritize different missiles to be intercepted based off of their ballistic trajectory. So if it looks like a missile is heading towards a high priority area to defend, they'll try and shoot that one down. But if it looks like it's going to hit a low priority area, then they don't shoot that one down and they let it through to hit whatever it's going to hit. So based off of all of that information, we can get the clear deduction that they're running low. And also on top of that, the other thing that's clear damning proof, at least here in the United States, that we're running low, is that the U.S. approved, if I'm not mistaken, actually not yesterday, it was a couple of days ago on last week's map, that the Patriot missile production in the United States was going to quadruple to replenish stockpiles for the larger part in the corporate wordage that they put out. So while the exact number is classified, we don't really need the exact number. We just need the understanding of whether the supply is high, medium, or low, and it is definitely low right now. Every indicator is showing that quite clearly. So you don't need an exact count to know that. So moving us on out of that, which was an interesting point, but one as old as time and easily disproven, it's time for us to move on and into the rest of the news that we have in this region. But before we do, a lot of people are hearing outside this whole low interceptor talk that Mujtaba might be dying right now. He might be on his way to become a martyr. And Matthew, what are people thinking is going to happen if he does enter this ultimate phase, this epic evolution of martyrdom? What are they thinking, and what are you thinking as well?
He's just a flamboyant man, Kathleen. He's a flamboyant fellow. That's what they call him. Mujtaba Khomeini, the son of Ali Khomeini. Some say the disappointing son. That's what they say. But the reports are saying that he's in critical condition and he could die at any moment. He's basically on the verge of just going out like the worst of them. So what happens? 60% said Mujtaba is likely already dead, while 25% said Mujtaba really doesn't have power anyway, so it doesn't really matter. And 6% said he will emerge eventually. So, technically, we have had the ghost of Mujtaba in cardboard format. He's been seen multiple times. They'll bring him out as a cardboard cutout, and he'll sit there in his chair as the so-called ghost of Mujtaba. He'll sit in the chair at some of these events inside of Iran. But Mujtaba has never made an appearance. So some people have argued that he's really not even the leader of Iran, really. Because if he's too scared to make an appearance, then is he really the leader at that point? Also, nobody can even get a check on the guy. Nobody can even know what position position he's actually in or what condition he's in, because nobody has seen him or heard from him. The only people that really know his real condition are a handful of top Iranians that are very trusted to go meet with him at whatever hole he's hiding in. And right there you can see there's the cardboard cutout. They couldn't even afford to apparently paint the fake clothes on the cutout. They only had the face. They must have inkjet printed that or something. But I would say, in my opinion, I think Mujtaba might be already dead, because the fact he hasn't come out or been seen at all, and no pun intended with the come out part, but the fact he hasn't been seen, I would say that's not a good sign. That doesn't really put much faith in me that he's even alive at this point. But Enforcer, what say you?
Matthew, are we dealing with a weekend at Bernie's situation at the national level in Iran?
There's a lot of people that are apparently leaders that aren't seen anymore. They're like ghosts. You just hear about, oh yeah, they're doing fine. They're moving to a nursing home or working from home, but they're fine though.
I would have to be honest with y'all, folks. I think he might actually be dead. I'm not really sure. Like, it's hard to say. Right now, he's Schrodinger's leader because they talk about him greatly. But they also say it's very hard to talk to him, so I'm thinking they might be whipping out a Ouija board. And also, the only time we've seen him is this cardboard cutout. And they bring this thing around. So, I don't know. Maybe he is dead. I mean, we've never seen proof of life of this guy. So, you know, there's a lot to add. There's a lot to say there.
Maybe they were just maybe they're waiting until a good moment to break it to the people that he was dead. Because I mean, outside of Mujtaba taking over for his father, getting taken out in the missile strike in the first 30 seconds of the war, I mean, who else is the successor to Mujtaba? That might be a genuine question, and it could be the Iranians knew that he was dead the entire time, and maybe he actually has been dead, and they were simply trying to hold it off so that way the public wouldn't demand a new leader. Because there could be a very dire power struggle that takes place once that he's actually announced as being truly dead. It could be a power struggle ensues, and Iran could fall into chaos.
But the thing is about that though, it's like if all of the top guys, like, because they all have to know he's dead if he really is dead. It's like, wouldn't they have already started the power struggle if they knew that? Because they wouldn't want to be working off of any idea of semblance or reasonableness with each other, because they would be generally distrusting of the others and thinking they might try and jump before me, and they might be able to get me before I can get them. So it's like, if he was really dead, it's like, wouldn't that start off a power struggle in its own way?
You would think it could possibly, maybe. I see some people in the chat also saying, they could have at least faked an AI like video of him or something. That's what I was thinking too. I'm like, in the days of AI, I mean, you can just fake a video of the guy. You can just simply make one that looks highly realistic. Some people will debate maybe it is AI, and then the rest of society that really doesn't know how to discern what it looks like, they'll just believe it, blindly. Especially those in Iran. Like the people in Iran will probably just blindly believe if they put something like that out. So they could have faked like an appearance. They could have easily just made one up and did it fake and like a fantasy appearance, but they didn't even do that. Like they haven't even done that. They bring out a cardboard cutout of the guy. Like it's just it seems sketchy. It seems a little bit weird to me.
Matthew, there's a group of experts out there on this sort of a deal where you claim that someone's alive, but they might be dead. I think we should confide in the Congress on this one and see what they think.
I don't confide for them for nothing.
Well, hey, man, I mean, I wouldn't confide with them in anything either, but you got to admit, they're pretty good at this kind of, they're pretty good at this kind of deal. I'm just joking, by the way, folks. Huh?
We got to go consult with the most professional liars on this one. Many people could qualify. There's a lot of professional liars these days. So, I mean, you could go consult with any of them.
We need to have a congressional hearing on this. That's all we need. We need a congressional hearing on this. But we need to be having a hearing where the representatives and the senators are the ones being heard and ask them, so does this seem like he's alive or is he dead? And let them say, well, based off of what we based off of our shtick. But anyways, it's time for us to move on out of that and on into the rest of the news, which we don't really have a whole lot left in the Middle East. It's a couple of little updates here and there. But we were able to see that within Iran, the Iranians did show off one of their underground complexes where they apparently stored an endless amount of shot down U.S. equipment. I don't even think that Reaper in the back is actually real. I think that's fake. But there's a whole bunch of just random spare parts they got from our weapons that they shot down, which are basically just all Reapers. We can see one of them getting shot down right there. I'm not gonna lie, that last one looks fake.
So they could show us a secret bunker with all the scrap parts from like shot down ancient Reaper drones, but they can't show us Mujtaba's hideout.
No, no, they can't show that. That was super secret. In other news, we also were able to hear that Kharga Island has largely been idling since July 31st, and satellite data confirmed that all loading bays are empty, though Iran continues collecting revenue from previously dispatched Asian shipments while quietly cutting domestic production to avoid storage overflows. So it looks like Kharga Island largely has become inactive, at least at this point. Also, in other news, the PMF and also other Islamic resistance in Iraq announced that it had postponed the response that was scheduled for today to the U.S. and Saudi airstrikes targeting the PMF bases and positions within Iraq. So generally, it looks like they have decided to hold off. For how long? Probably not that much longer. It'll probably be a couple of days, maybe a week. We'll be surprised if that actually holds. Moving us on down into the Strait of Hormuz, we have the usual. One, a U.S. official speaking to Reuters said the U.S. will lift its naval blockade of Iranian ports as soon as the deal between Oman and Iran on the strait to restore commercial shipping without impediments is announced. Then the Iranians stated that they will never reopen the Strait of Hormuz as the U.S. pressure on Oman continues. So the U.S. is saying it's about to be opened. The Iranians are saying it's never going to be opened. It is what it is. It's never going to be open. That's at least in the state it is right now. It's not going to be reopened. The U.S. is just putting out those nice, thoughtful hopes and dreams and wishes and all that stuff, the usual bit, and it's nothing new. So finally, folks, it's time for us to move on out of this middle of the East situation and on over and into the United States, because I've got good news from the halls of the Senate for all of you today. The Senate has passed, I think it was like 81 to 16, if I'm not mistaken. So pretty large margins. I think there was a lot of senators that just didn't vote. That they were passing forward the sanctions bill that was made by the late Senator Graham, and it's now being passed down to the House for them to vote on it. And then if they vote on it, it's then going to be kicked up to the president, and then the president's going to be able to have the option to veto the whole thing or to let it on through. But the fact that this thing was almost anonymously voted on, I believe it was something like nearly like 86 to nothing for the larger part. That's such a unanimous decision that I don't really think the president could veto this. They would just send it back to the House and the Senate, and they would unanimously vote on it again, and it would go through whether the president wanted it or not. Or the president might do what he did with the Affordable Housing Act, where he just refuses to sign it, and it just sits there for 10 days before it becomes law. So one or the other. Not entirely sure, but that's big news to hear. And it also is very big news to hear how significantly of a margin that it passed by. But moving us on out of the Senate in the United States of America, it's now time for us folks to return on back and into the war in Ukraine. Because the Ukrainians have been working hard, folks, over the course of this day. They have been doing quite a lot of work on those front lines, on the Russian rear lines, and deep inside of Russia, even across the Urals, inside of Siberia. So moving us on into all of this news, and getting us onto the drone attack vectors, we were able to hear that another new drone has been spotted in the skies over Russia. This little critter. Apparently, this is Ukraine's equivalent of a Shahed. I do have to say, though, folks, I find it quite unique because it has forward canards on the design, and it also appears to have clipped wings. Almost like a racing plane. So I'm guessing that this thing is made for speed, and the canards are there to be able to try and increase handling at high speeds. I don't know what high speeds would be for this type of a drone. I would assume that's probably 200, 300 miles an hour. But this thing looks like it is designed for speed. It's never been officially unveiled either, and drones of this type are used relatively frequently, at least as of late, but this is one of the first clear pictures we've ever gotten of this design or type of drone. We have also covered this drone a couple of times. I think the most notable time we've ever seen this would have been in St. Petersburg, during the St. Petersburg attacks on Kronstadt and the city of St. Petersburg, but since then, we haven't really seen a lot of this drone, and I do have to say, it is rather neat.
It is kind of neat.
And so, moving us on from that and on into the rest of our drone attack news, we were able to see the ongoing drone alerts throughout the Russian Federation, which was basically everywhere, and we also got to see the usual drone vector attack map, which did show us quite a lot of drones that were flying on into Russia. Now, getting us on into where these drones went, they went far. One actually made it to the Sizran refinery and cooked that thing up real nice-like. Let's take a gander. There's a fire over these high rises here in the skyline. Here's another clip, letting us see that fire through the tree line at Sizran. here's another video showing another fire through another tree line at the Sizran refinery. And there's a picture of the fire at the Sizran refinery. That's what they ought to name this thing, the Sizran refinery. I think that would be a marketable name. Moving us on out of Sizran, we also were able to hear an erroneous Russian report that we haven't really gotten any proof on at all, that according to Visegrad 24, 5 FP5 flamingos reached the Sverdlovsk region inside of central Russia. The problem is, though, folks, is that this was reported at 2:09 a.m. in the morning, and we haven't seen these FP5 flamingos make it anywhere. We haven't seen a single one of them hit their target. So generally we're thinking that this was an erroneous report, but I wanted to make sure to cover it so that way we were able to address this on air. We never saw any flamingos hit a target or get shot down, so we don't really have any proof that these flamingos even existed. One thing we do have proof of, though, is that there were FPV drones, or more so long-range attack drones like the FP1, that were flying over the Urals in this area, and they did end up hitting and striking Yekaterinburg. And we were able to see a clip here that the wild berries distribution facility in Yekaterinburg took an unfortunate demise. There it is, блядь!
Все, погнали.
Что, погнали, блядь? There's a little bit of machine gun fire. They're trying.
Вон там второй еще летает. Смотри, вот,
Oh, and there's the wild berries. Oh, disaster.
Oh,
Oh, wow, that's some heavy air defense there. Some heavy machine guns, maybe. Oh, look, one already hit. Come on, number 2. Do your work. Oh,
what the hell? What was that?
I think that's what they call a close call.
Yeah, really. It sounded like bullets whizzing by this guy's head.
That was. That was a bullet gun.
Jeez, man. That means everybody down there on the road's at risk, too, as they're firing bullets over the civilians. That's typical Russia for you.
Man, that's brutal right there, Hannah. Oh, damn. Oh, please. Come on, number 2. Go on, number 2. Do it. Oh, he got it.
This is pretty far away from the border, too, isn't it? This is a very deep strike.
Far from the border. Matthew, this is Siberia. This is as far away as they can get.
Yeah, I mean, that's very far right there. I think that this must be the new upgraded, single prop, wing drones that they have. Because I think this is one of the farthest flights I've seen of it.
That would be 1,114 miles. So yeah, I think this would be the longest range, one of the longest range flights I think we've seen of an FP1. But remember, there was those drones that hit the Omsk refinery, which was about 1,600 miles. But I don't know what type did that. I'm not sure if it was the FP1. But I think we've seen FP1s hit Yekaterinburg and Chelyabinsk occasionally before, and I think there was an attack also reported in Tumen recently. So this is apparently at their very cutting edge range at this point, is the Yekaterinburg, Tumen, Chelyabinsk triangle. We could call that, Matthew, the Chelyabinsk triangle, like the Bermuda Triangle.
It's where a whole bunch of shit goes missing and nobody knows where it went.
Man, call the Russians Bermuda, because all that money in that Russian budget, it goes missing and they don't know where it went. Man. Да полный блед. Moving us on from that clip, we also were able to see in our second clip here the drone strikes in Yekaterinburg. But this was just a shorter clip. I believe this might be the first drone. Actually, this is a different drone, so let's take a look at this one. Hold up. Actually, no, that is the same one. I don't know what it is about that one, folks. That one confused me even earlier, and I was like, I think that is the first drone, and it did it again on air. So getting rid of that clip, considering that's just a shorter duplicate of the first one we saw, and moving us on out of Yekaterinburg, we also were able to see, moving us on and into Moscow, that a mysterious incident happened today in western Moscow. Let me show you all the scene. It appears that an air defense missile was fired into the air,
Сейчас, наверное, будет удар.
or something of that nature.
Oh, вот он случился.
But it didn't hit.
Oh, that's not good. That's not good. They got that dog on the street, too.
Man, man, also, here's another clip of the sound. Nobody knows what it was. Because you see, the thing is, folks, is that it looks like an air defense missile that was flying almost directly level over the city. Problem is that it never hit anything from what anyone knows, so there was never an in-air interception, and the Russians never put out an alert about anything going on, so it just happened to be a missile flying at supersonic speeds, clearly because it broke the sound barrier, traveling over the city in western Moscow. No alert was issued. The Russians never made a comment about it at the governmental level, and it terrified everybody in western Moscow. Nobody knows what that thing even is. I don't even know what it was either. It looks like it was some sort of a high-speed missile. That's all I could say. And so beyond that, folks, it's a mystery. I think the people of Western Moscow are has as many questions as I do. What the hell was that? But moving us on out of Western Moscow, before we get on to the rest of our news for the night, a lot of people are talking about the U.S. Senate passing that Russian sanctions bill to cripple Putin's regime with sanctions. And a lot of people are wondering, will it happen or will it not? And Matthew, are people thinking that it will happen or are they thinking that it won't happen? And what are you thinking?
Okay, so the U.S. Senate has formally passed the Russia sanctions bill, which was the bill that Lindsey Graham put forth before he passed away. And apparently, it is designed to cripple Putin's regime with sanctions. I will admit the bill looks pretty promising, but the catch is, though, is it actually going to be put into law? Because right now, the U.S. Senate has passed it, they kick it over to the House has to vote on it, and then it gets kicked up to the president. So, will it actually happen? 42% said yes, the hellish sanctions will actually happen, while 37% said no, the U.S. will give Putin a break. And 16% said I'm 50-50 on this one. And I would have to say, unfortunately, I'm actually 50-50 on this one. I'm with a 16%. The sanctions bill is so good, it's almost too good to be true. So I think somewhere along the line, someone's going to step in and try to foul it up. Right now, all the folks involved with it are all talking about, oh yeah, this is great. Let's get it to my desk. Let's sign it. But I have a feeling, just like we've seen before with these last minute flip flops, that we'll see probably a backing out of this, because this is going to do some real damage to Russia's economy. And right now is not the time for that for Putin. And if it happens right now, that could be the feather that breaks the camel's back, for lack of better words. So we might see someone try to give them another helping hand. I wouldn't rule that out, because these days I don't have much faith at all in the U.S. government with how they deal with Putin and whether or not they're actually willing to take down the regime with a bill this hellish. But Enforcer, what say you?
Matthew, are you trying to say that your opinion is that the president might not be a big fan of this?
I mean, I'm right now. He suddenly is a big fan of it, but when the bill actually arrives at his desk, he might decide, actually, I've never said that Russia was a bad country. It could be a complete flip flop.
Honestly, folks, I'd have to agree with Matthew. I just want to ask there, because I was about to give a good example. Do y'all remember, folks, when the president said that the Ukrainians were great people and that they deserved to license produce patriots, and then he basically just completely backed out of that? Y'all remember that? That happened just like 2 weeks ago. That's why I think it's going to happen with this as well. The thing is, though, is that this still might make it through. Because with how it works, folks, the president can veto it and not sign it, but that means that it's kicked back to the Congress again to have another vote on it. And I think if it's kicked back into veto, the House of Representatives gets the first vote, and it has to pass both houses, the House and the Senate, with a 2/3 majority. So it has to pass with more than 66% of the House of Representatives and the Senate voting on it. So even if the president vetoes it, and he does this whole stupid flip-flop shtick, which I'm very sure that he probably do as well, the Congress might be able to override him. But the problem is, folks, is that might not happen, because not to try and make this sound like a political thing, but this is just kind of the fact, is that the president kind of has like an iron fist control over a lot of the Congress members in the House and the Senate. So if he vetoes something and it goes back to them, they might actually vote against it or just abstain from voting, which might not see the 2/3 majority needed to override a veto and then become law. So a little bit hard to say how it would go from there, but I would also have to be with a 16% as well, folks. It's absolutely impossible to know what the U.S. government is going to do, and generally, as far as foreign policy goes these days, I usually take a negative outlook, and my general opinion is that it probably won't go through, because the president will veto it and the Congress won't try and check him and then get it through anyways, regardless of a veto. But because there is a chance they might override a veto, that's why I'm in the 16% of the undecided. But with that, I hope that does address that the best I can, at least from what I would think and what my opinion is, folks. And with that, it is time for us to move on and into the rest of our news, which we still have quite a lot of. And so moving us on and into the rest of the news that we have for the night, there was a little fire near a rail yard in the city of Bryansk. We don't know what caused it. but it was quite a large one, and it looks like we might be able to find where that was. If it was in Bryansk, and it was near to a rail yard, which Bryansk has several, we can see that there are these blue buildings nearby to the base of the fire. So if we go to the Bryansk areas, and we look for blue buildings near to the base of the fire, oh, it looks like some sort of rail servicing area right there. And let's see if we go over here and find any
Oh
other.
no. Not the rail servicing area getting taken out. They can't maintain the trains now. That's a damn shame.
How are they supposed to survive if the trains aren't running, man? Like they literally
It's not like they were
rely
using
on
it. It's not like they were using the maintenance depot anyway. I mean, have you seen their trains? They look like crap.
Man, honestly, they do real shit. I mean, like real talk. But man, a very unfortunate loss for them out here. Very sad for the Russians. Everyone weep. It's so sad. I'm not weeping, by the way, folks. That's a pretty nice thing to see. But moving us on out of that little fire in Bryansk, it appears to just be in such an unfortunate location. It's now time for us to move on out of the Russian Federation entirely and on into the front lines in Ukraine. Moving us on into our first bit of news that we were able to get from the Sumy front, we were able to see that the 129th Heavy Mechanized Brigade was knocking out Russian assault groups left and right here in the Sumy direction. Oh. Looks like they're landing some artillery on them.
Well, they're landing something on them.
This is Matthew's scariest front. It's the Sumy front. So he has to go through this whole thing and say allegedly. He has to do 3 Hail Marys and 3 allegedlys. Man.
Allegedly, that guy got a concussion right there. Allegedly, he might have pooped his pants, possibly, because, you know, he's kind of getting shelled, and we're not talking about Ratatouille.
Man, allegedly, he might not be okay. But moving us on from that, we also got to see the Russian casualty report for the past 24 hours. And holy smokes!
Whoa, they got 6 Bobcats today. They got 6 of them in a row. What are they trying to do here? Get a 2-for-1? But tell us more.
And I gotta say, folks, that they are trying to get a 2-for-1. A 2-for-1 deal. A 2-for-1 deal. According to Miss DC, Keeper of the Records, troop losses has dropped, as do most categories, except for 11 APCs and 6 Bobcat skid steers. 14 ground robotic complexes is tied as the 6th highest daily loss, which is noted for accuracy. And we do thank Miss DC, Keeper of the Records, for noting the ground robotics complex losses for accuracy. And over the course of the past 24 hours, we were able to see that 1,210 Russian soldiers were wounded and killed, along with 11 APCs, 386 supply trucks, 1 main battle tank, 67 artillery pieces, 1,589 drones, 2 MLRSs, 3 anti-aircraft systems, and 6 Bobcats in a pear tree. So moving us on from that casualty report, it's now time for us to move on and over into the Kupiansk area, where we were able to see the Ukrainian drones of the 41st Mechanized Brigade conducting some house clearing. Knock, knock, knock. Housekeeping! Oh, look, there's a Russian here. Well, he can't be here. He must be cleaned. And they cleansed.
That man was running through there like he just solved the mystery, and Velma and Daphne was about to catch up.
Man, that blood said, like, Zoink Scoob, we gotta tell the game! And he went off, man. Right, he was going.
Man didn't even pick me up. I was trying to do the Scooby thing, but I was literally sat there yelling to myself in my place, and they didn't even pick it up on the mic.
Man, I was sitting there thinking after I did my thing, I was like, bro, dead crowd tonight. I was like, quiet crowd tonight.
I was doing the whole Scooby routine, and nothing was being picked up. It just totally look at it. It just turned me away.
Man, it turns you away. It turned the microphone off. It's a ridiculousness. But moving us on down into the Seversk area, we also were able to see them targeting Russian forces in the 82nd Air Assault Brigade. We see him hitting them with them clothes hangers, and we all know that those are quite dangerous.
The 82nd Air Assault Brigade?
Yes.
I've never seen an air assault brigade before. A little bit of freshener.
Man, honestly, man, that air assault is something crazy, man. They just go out swinging at the sky.
Look at it, pepping. Little,
Man, a little salt in the house and feather, man. They got that lot of
Oh.
nice, bro, like, bro.
That lot almost like a Beamer for a minute.
Honestly, man, it's covered in like trash.
Yeah, really. I mean, this is a barn find that nobody really wants to find.
Oh, dang, they burned the whole place down. Oh, look at this. It's a car in the field. It's growing in the car field where like the cars are made. Mm-mm-mm. Dang, I
Why
don't know
do I
what
hear
they hit right there.
explosions outside? Do you hear explosions outside?
Man, I don't know what goes on where you're at, but I never hear any of that stuff.
Yeah, I'm hearing like explosions right now. Like it's like a whole bunch of booms and rapid succession. I'm not sure what the hell that is.
Oh, that's probably nothing. Probably just the
Oh,
Russians.
yes, I don't need to worry about it. It's just a little nothing.
Man, it's no big deal at all. Man, we're about to get an alert on our phones. Take shelter immediately. Bro, it's gonna be like, oh man, we're staying on air though, folks. The show doesn't end until it's over. Moving us on down and into Chasiv Yar, we also were able to see Russian armored vehicles getting hit within this area by the Ukrainian armed forces. Would you just look at the number of them? Look at the overwhelming mass of vehicles that the Ukrainians continue to destroy with their drone force.
Oh!
Oh!
Dang, I've never seen somebody do that on a motorcycle before. That's crazy. He hit a bump. He like flew up like vertically. Man, he almost got injured.
I don't even
Look
know
at
what that is.
him. Oh, geez. Honestly, man, that blunder actually saved him, actually.
It looks like it actually
Dang, man, he's
did.
like a disappearing act. That dude literally like disappeared when the thing turned around. He was fast as hell.
Blood was Harry Houdini, man. Like honestly, man, he pulled the old jump off the bike and break your ankles move, and then disappeared right afterwards. Classic trick. Many such cases. Oh, and hitting the giant gas can they had. Oh, a UAC 469. Oh, I don't think they want to hit that. Like they're trying to figure out if they really want to. What do we got here? Oh, they got the thermite bomb. Oh, bro, they came in flaming. Bro, that's crazy. You got a grad here as well. Oh, damn. I gotta tell you, folks, those Ukrainians, they're really putting in the numbers these days. You can tell. You can really tell. Moving us down into the Dobropilia front, we also were able to see the Ukrainians put out some archival footage of them striking the armored attack that was conducted towards Dobropilia that failed. You know what's crazy, folks, is that they have the 2022 era cope gauges. Like, they don't have any additional mods. That's kind of interesting there. And also, this is a T80. A T80 BVM, nonetheless. So that is exceptionally rare these days. They basically have no T80s left in the Russian army.
Yeah, they're lucky to have anything newer than like, 1950.
Man. Oh, look, it's an actual hedgehog this time. Dang, man. They just don't let them get breaks, do they? Tough stuff, really. Sad stuff. A sad world for the Russians. Moving us on down towards Pokrovsk, we also get to see the Russians getting hit down here by the 1st Battalion Predator of the Heights 59th Assault Brigade. Oh, look, this guy was trying to claw at the wall. This guy's trying to run through the woods. Oh,
Oh, dang, man. They're going to put that flashbang edit on us, too. They're going to send me into a spaz real quick. Oh, come on. Whoever's editing these videos, they got to stop that.
man, honestly, man, this is quite nauseating. Like, really. Man, they're about to do it again right here. Oh, man, I'm telling you, crazy
Oh.
stuff. Crazy stuff, I tell you. But moving us on out of that Pokrovsk clip of the anti-infantry actions, we also were able to see that, unfortunately, the Russians did hit an ammo warehouse overnight in the Dnipropetrovsk Oblast. No audio, weirdly enough, but the ammo depot, the Ukrainian one, was unfortunately hit. We're not really sure of the impact. Moving us on from that and further on down the line and into the southern front in Zaporizhia, we also were able to see the Ukrainians targeted and destroyed a Grad, a BM-21 Grad.
Oh, look at that. A little misfire. Look at that rocket truck. Man, they literally turned into a rocket truck. Look at that thing propelling itself. Look at that. It's like those fireworks you buy from the store.
Man, bro, honestly, man, you know what that reminds me of? It reminds me of that scene from Kung Fu Panda where you got, like, the firework wagon and you rode it up the stairs. You remember that, man?
Yeah, I think so. That's wild, really. I've never seen that. I can't believe it actually worked.
Man, hold up, man. I gotta go pull up this thing, man. I gotta go pull it up and reference it now. Man, you're gonna know what I mean when I show you this picture right there.
Oh, yeah. I know what that is now, yeah.
Yeah, bro, it's literally the same thing. Oh my god, look, that is wild, man. It literally shoved the whole truck into a tree Then the missile shot through the windshield. That is insane. You never see stuff like that often. You know what? I've never seen anything like that, as a matter of fact. Also, another cool thing that we got to see is that near Zaporizhzhia today, a Ukrainian MiG-29 did a low-flying pass over the reservoir. Here it comes. Airplane.
Yeah. Look at that.
That's pretty
Look
cool.
at that. That's a big plane right there. Also, I see, by the way, the crazy dude guy by going in the chat, by the way. The crazy dude has been banned, by the way, just so everybody knows. I see, apparently, everybody was tracking the crazy dude yapping and going berserk in the chat. So he's out of here, folks. Like, yeah, it's okay. Y'all can settle down. He got everybody riled up.
Man, honestly, man, like, bro, like, I saw a little bit of it, and I was like, I don't know. Apparently, that was a big deal. But yeah, you know, that happens from time to time, folks. Some people they just kind of lose it. They break under the pressure. That's why we're different, folks. We only broke under the pressure years ago, and then we just keep going. But anyway, so that we're moving on down to the M14 now, where we were able to see some mobile fire groups getting hit on the side of the road. And really quickly here, let's see. Oh, let's see. Mobile air defense team. Okay, so this is a Russian mobile air defense team, apparently. And muting the music here, we see the Ukrainian drone coming on in. Oh, look, there's a mobile fire group.
Oh,
Living on the scene like A-Team, bro. Oh, damn, they're making a run for it. Oh!
Oh my gosh. Oh, how come nobody can run like properly when you need to run? It's like everybody starts twisting ankles, breaking legs. Like when you need to run and like your survival instincts kick in, it's like the horror movie thing sets in. I didn't think the horror movies were being legit, but it's like people really don't know how to run when they have to.
Man, it's like those nightmares that everyone has every once in a while. You know, when you try and like punch in the dreams and your punches are like landing like nothing, like it's literally like as slow as possible. Or when you run, you're running at like super slow speed and you can't run any faster or move any quicker. It's like that, you know, like look at that. Those like this one guy though, man, I will say this one guy who was on the gun, bro, that guy had some speed. He might be worth getting into like the Olympics or something, but the other guy though, he was way behind.
Yeah, I would say so. Also, everybody's saying it's an old video. I'm pretty sure this is a new one. We might be mistaken, but I'm pretty sure it's new. I haven't seen this one before.
I haven't seen this one before myself, folks. It's just that a lot of them end up looking similar because the same thing happens so many times. We also were able to see a Ram 2 loitering munition strike some Russian mobile fire groups on the M14 and these clips. This is literally just a Buhanka. Oh, man. Like, bro, he just turned around and went, oh my God, dude, do you see that? Look at this truck.
Little serpentine that would totally evade a very fast, racing drone.
Man, it's like they ain't even going for you. They going for the mobile fire truck, you silly goose. But moving us on from that and on into the E105 highway, we also get to see the road to Crimea once again today, and it still is looking rather hellish.
Death Row, that's what they call it, Death Road. Just really tough. I mean, the whole road's littered with trouble. Look, there's a forest fire catching on out there. Smokey's going to have a conniption fit. Look at this. Fire on the side of the road. I mean, you'd have to be a little bit out of your mind to drive down this road with a clear conscience.
And yet they do. They do it, and they do it again and again. I don't even understand why anymore. Oh, by the way, that actually brings us down into Crimea, folks. If y'all thought that was bad, there was also a report of the attack on the Harvitsky airfield, and the firm satellite confirmed that there was a major fire going on in most of the support facilities at the airbase. So whatever got hit there, it is on fire pretty badly at this point, and hopefully we'll be able to get a damage assessment in the next several days. Additionally, also, folks, we got to see that the Freedom of Russia unit was able to get a drone video, apparently, or something of that nature, of the defenses under the Kerch Bridge. I actually think this was filmed via a ship. Not really sure, but still showing us a little bit of what the Russians have set up as far as defenses go. Moving us on from that clip, and on out of the Crimean Peninsula, it is now time for us to get on into our last clip of the news for the night. Sadly, folks, we don't have a speech. Zelensky is kind of getting a little bit infrequent with those lately, which is a bit of a shame. But nevertheless, we were able to see strikes on more Russian forces inside of the Kherson area by the Ukrainian long-range attack forces.
Over 100 and something.
Over 100 and something. You mean viewers? Because we do have over 100,000 views right now, believe it.
No, I'm talking about the clip. It's like the caption says something like it's over 100 something targets hit in 48 hours.
Man, they hitting them quotas. Like we're at like 100 targets in 48 hours. That's 50 every 24. Man, just look at it. The carnage, the destruction that the Ukrainian forces wield against the enemy. It's quite something there. It is quite something. Man, it's an endless amount. You just got to sit here and marvel at sometimes, you know? You really do. There's a Russian barracks getting hit, a Russian support building getting hit. It's just endless. It's endless, folks. It's like watching a silent picture, like Charlie Chaplin or something. It's incredible. Oh, a substation right here. This is actually in the Donetsk Oblast. You see it boiling quite nicely here. We see another one here, another substation in Mariupol in the Donetsk Oblast, also getting hit. That's beautiful right here.
How
Y'all,
long is this video?
oh, it's not that long. It's 50 minutes.
It's really repetitive.
It's only 30 seconds more, Matthew. I mean, what can you not give your time to the brave Ukrainian armed forces conducting these attacks? What are you, some sort of a some sort of a anti-Ukrainian drone attacker?
Man, I don't know.
It's beautiful though. Look at it. I mean, all of these clips of the camera just zooming in closer and closer to its intended target and hitting it. What makes you feel like this is repetitive? There's nothing repetitive about it at all. Like, see, look, we finally got a full daytime color camera this time. That's different. And this one, that one was black and white. I mean, it's like an old, nice chrome color television or black and white television, whichever way they put it. But nevertheless, folks, that is the end of the news for the day. It's a beautiful thing to see. Beautiful thing to see that they were hitting all of those wonderful substations and defensive positions of the Russians in the Kherson and Donetsk oblasts. But with that, folks, it's time for us to move on and into the second segment of the stream where we get to talk to each and every single one of y'all. And I gotta say, folks, that tonight has been one hell of a night. We've seen that at the peak, there, at least according to YouTube right now, and it'll probably update later, that 16.3 thousand of y'all were here. But what is a little bit odd about that, though, is that there was a roughly about 101,000 of y'all who have watched the stream over the course of the last 2 hours and 10 minutes. Now, the thing that isn't adding up about this, folks, is that that is usually about the number of people that we get watching the show over the course of a normal stream, which usually would have like 17 to 18,000 live viewers, but tonight they're saying we only had 16.3, which is making me believe that YouTube might be unfortunately underreporting the number. We'll probably update and we'll probably find out tomorrow. But nevertheless, regardless whether we have an accurate count or not, we still thank y'all, whether we can see y'all as a number or not on the analytics side of things, for being here and watching tonight. We are extremely honored to know that we were able to get y'all through another night of news, and I hope that tonight has been another good night. So a humongous thanks to all of y'all so much once again for watching the news so far, and make sure to stick around, everyone. We've got a lot of stuff to talk about in this question segment. A lot of stuff. I gotta say, it's an endless amount. And so, Matthew, please, take it away. What do we got here?
All right, so jumping into the final question segment of the night, it's time to get our super chats, our live chats, and our Morse code decoders. And right now, it appears to be that we don't have a whole bunch of pressing breaking news right now. We are getting a couple of posts out right now updating about the Surzan oil refinery getting hit inside of Russia. And it looks like, according to the NASA firm satellite data, it looks like nearly the entire facility is on fire as of right now. It looks like the fire might have spread based on a post from OSINT Technical that's about 2 down on our Twitter page. You can see that there on that satellite imagery that's currently burning.
Well, let's go take a look here really quickly at the satellite photography, folks. And oh my goodness, that Scisron be sizzling. Damn, that thing be cooking.
It's clearly on fire, very much so. As you can see here, the entire facility appears to be burning.
It does appear to largely be burning quite well. Do we? Oh, look, we have a clip of it here too. Let's take a little look at this footage, folks. The EV sizzling. Well, we won't even talk about that. But with that, it looks like the Sizzling refinery is still cooking up quite nicely. And so, folks, without further ado, it's time for us to get on into the questions. What do we got, Matthew?
So jumping into our first super chat for our final segment, this one goes to Carlos Santiago, and Carlos puts in a very generous $50 support, and thank you very much, good sir, once again,
Hey!
for throwing in the second support of the night. We do appreciate that generous support very, very much. And Carlos said, if a military alliance between Saudi Arabia, Turkish, and Pakistan gels, say goodbye to the Abraham Accords, and possibly the beginning of the end of American influence in the Middle East. And I don't know. Like now, I'll be honest, the Abraham Accords, I don't really understand what the big deal is about that. That's not really that strong of a deal to me. Like the U.S. is making a huge deal about that. I think mainly because Israel wants them to make a big deal about it. But I don't know. Like Israel generally is not really friendly with too many people in the region, so I'm not sure if many people are going to be wanting to join that for the most part. So I'm not so sure about the Abraham Accords, but. I don't know if a military alliance between Saudi Arabia, Turkey, and Pakistan is really going to turn into anything because I don't think Pakistan or Turkey is really going to show up and start defending Saudi Arabia if they really get attacked. Because, I mean, they're getting attacked now, and nobody's really helping them out. I mean, Saudi Arabia's just sort of sitting there fending for themselves for the most part. But Enforcer, what say you?
Also, another thing is that none of these countries really are. Well, maybe that's a part of your argument, but none of these countries are actually a part of the Abraham Accords. Saudi Arabia, Turkey, and Pakistan are non-signing members. The only signing members of the Abraham Accords are Sudan, Morocco, the UAE, and Bahrain, outside of Israel. And also, by the way, folks, y'all are wondering, what are the Abraham Accords? The Abraham Accords are basically just these Middle Eastern countries going, okay, Israel exists and we're gonna, deal with them. Like that's literally the whole accord. Basically, it's just okay, yeah, we'll just deal with them like they're any other country, rather than having like a beef with them or anything. So I mean, in a way, like I think I see what you're saying here, Carlos. Since Saudi Arabia, Turkey, and Pakistan are not members of the Abraham Accords, and Saudi Arabia is one of the biggest countries in the region, and now it has this defensive pact, why in the world would it ever feel pressure to join the Abraham Accords? And honestly, I don't even know why in the world the Abraham Accords is a thing. Like I don't really get it entirely a whole great deal because it's like, why in the world are we trying to make this thing out like every country in the Middle East doesn't already treat Israel like a normal country? It's like they all do. It's like this isn't like the Yom Kippur War anymore, or the 6 Day War. It's like that was like 50 years ago. It's like most countries in the region recognize Israel as a state and deal with them as a state. So it's like, what in the world does the Abraham Accords do but just put that into a treaty and in writing that they're treated normally? It's like, I don't even really understand it. But beyond that, though, I do thank you greatly for the support, Carlos, and help with this channel to keep it running. Now, I would have to say, like, looking at it from that angle, I would actually have to agree with you. That might actually be the end of the Abraham Accords, because Saudi Arabia would probably be the largest and most important country to try and get into it. And if they have this defensive pact, they might just say, I don't know. Israel's got odds, is at odds with Turkey, and because of this pact, we can't do that. So, we'll just push that off indefinitely and never sign it. So, a huge thanks to you for support and help with this channel to keep it running. And I hope that does address that well. And also, I just saw Hard Rock say, I think the defensive pact is to provide defensive support only. Well, yes, that is what defensive pacts are. But the thing is, though, is that defensive pacts also have to keep in line what may be an adversary state. And as far as the defensive pact is concerned, Israel would be an adversary state because they are at odds with the Turks. So that would become a collective security threat for the three nations or the Triple Alliance in this defensive pact. And so Saudi Arabia really wouldn't want to go off its way to try and formalize or improve relations with Israel officially through, say, the Abraham Accords, because they would say, well, Turkey is currently at odds with them. And so we kind of got to be posturing a way to where if Israel attacks Turkey, we can respond in common defense against the Israelis, if that's how they were actually looking at it. Or the Saudis might pull the old classic trick, oh, well, we're not really into this whole deal. We got something on the oven, we might have left the stove on at home. We can't really get involved in that, and then leave Turkey to deal with it on their own. But not that Turkey would be dealing with it on their own, folks. If Israel went out of its way to attack Turkey, knowing the current prevailing attitude in Europe, that probably would be Article 5 invocation worthy. Because the Europeans really aren't that big of fans of the state of Israel due to a whole bunch of different reasons. But anyways, I hope that is addressed the best they can, and a huge thanks to you once again for support. And with that, we're on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Steve T, who puts in a $25 support. And thank you, Steve T, for the 25. And we do appreciate that very, very much. And Steve said, what is the state of the peninsula and Kherson? And could Ukraine push over the Dnipro and dig in to re-equip frontline automated guns and drones and limit Russia to their broken bridge and ships?
They tried that before, sadly, Steve Tiva, in the Dnipro River campaign, and while they were able to take some small footholds on the other side of the river, like, for example, Pishtanivka, Kazachi Lahri, and Krasunka, and I think if I can zoom in here, it might show the yeah, it actually does show some of the battle damage from when the Ukrainians conducted the river campaign. It sadly didn't really work, and so it's unfortunately we probably wouldn't be able to see that that would succeed because the problem is that while Ukraine can get across the river, they really can't support anything that moves further on into the Kherson area. And so sadly, it wouldn't really work out too well. And also to get to that really quickly, the reason why your account was banned is because you were beefing with people in the chat and like just going off on them. And like the rule of treating people with respect generally applies across the board, and so that was the reason why you were banned. But moving on from that though, that would be the reasoning, in my opinion, to say why a river campaign probably sadly wouldn't be too successful. So big thanks to your support and help this channel to keep it running. And with that, we're on the next one.
And also, by the way, he was talking to somebody in the chat, by the way, if anybody's curious what he was talking about. That was very random. He said he started addressing like the random ghost out of the blue. Everybody's like, what the hell is he talking about?
Well,
He's
I can't
addressing
type.
some dude in the chat.
Like I can't type easily or quickly while I'm talking. It's just too distracting. But it was like to just to explain it, it was the whole deal that was going on in the chat. I looked into it and I just saw like one person just going off on another. They're like, "You're full of BS and ass assumptions." I'm like, "Okay, that's crossing the line." And I was like, you know, that's a rule. You know, we try and keep it as civil as possible around here. And if I look into the chat and see someone going off on someone else, that's kind of going against the rule. But anyways, with that, well, that's not kind of, it is going against the rule. But with that, we're on the next one.
And our next one, man, you gotta understand from the viewer standpoint when you just did that a second ago, that they were probably thinking you were like talking yourself going crazy or something like that. I mean, so,
Man, I was just trying to address it quick. I was like
you're just in the middle of your thought, and you're like, oh. Also, by the way, the reason why you got mad is like talking to like the ghost of Christmas past or something like that.
man, well, I mean, I can't really type easy, man, because it's hard to talk and type. So I was like, let me try and address that real quick while I'm saying this here, because I saw that you were starting to address it. You're like, well, I didn't ban you, and I don't know why. I was like, man, let me explain this real quick, then, so that way we're not just leaving it in the void without an answer. But anyways, with that, we're on the next one.
We also have here a super chat from none other than Gunfox, who puts in a $20 support. And thank you very much, Gunfox, for the 3 super chats in a row, each a $20 support. And we appreciate you all 3 very, very much. And Gunfox said in the first one, 9/5/1977, Voyager 1 is launched, and at a distance of 172.59 AU, or 25.8 billion kilometers, 16 billion miles, as of August 2026, Voyager 2 is launched. It is at a distance of 21.4 billion kilometers from Earth as of 2/26.
You know, like Voyager 1 is actually one of the most interesting things that has ever been launched into space, because I think it's the only satellite so far that has made it into the outer space area outside of the solar system, rather than just the solar system itself, which is pretty wild when you think about it. I think it passed Pluto many a years ago at this point, and so it's finally exited the solar system. And let me see here. When did it pass? Let's see. When did it pass Pluto? Oh, look, so actually it will have electric power to return engineering data until 2036. And as of 2026, the only 2 instruments that are operational is the plasma wave subsystem and the magnetometer. So, unfortunately, almost everything's been shut down on the satellite, but it is still running, and it is all the way out there past Pluto at this point. Where in the world, let's see here, is it specifically, like, how far has it gone? Um, dang, I can't find that. But beyond that, though, it's a really neat system, and I don't really know a lot about the Voyager 2. Actually, let me go pull that one up, the Voyager 2, and let's go pull this one up. So actually, it's basically the exact same satellite. I didn't know that. I always thought they were different. But beyond that, though, a huge thanks to you for support and helping this channel keep running and sharing such an interesting day in history. And Matthew, what do you and I, pop quiz for our insider jokes, what do you and I know the Voyager 1 satellite for the most?
Uh, I have no idea.
I am Nomad. I am perfect. It's that.
Oh, was that it?
Yeah, remember like in like the Star Trek lore, the Nomad thing was actually a combination of like the Voyager 1 satellite and some other alien satellite, and they like merged together create the Nomad.
Huh? Yeah, I didn't know it was actually based on a real one.
Well, let me pull it up here real quick. Nomad Star Trek, because I'm pretty sure that is the story behind it. So let me see here. The Changeling. Here, yeah, so here it is. So let's see here. Blah, 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 blah. Maybe it has like a reference to the Voyager 1 in here somewhere. Let's see. I'm pretty sure, like, maybe I got that wrong. Did I just get that wrong? Like, I think I might. Hold up. Let me
I
go.
think so. I don't remember saying it Voyager.
I swear, man, that there was like a Voyager reference in this episode, and I was like, that's wild. Um, let's see. Hang on. You know what? I want to let me go pull this over to the sky. Oh, let's see. Nomad Star Trek Voyager 1. Let's see if it has any reference to it. So, let's see. Oh. So apparently I got the facts wrong. Apparently this like plot was an inspiration apparently in a Star Trek movie to make like a nomad like character that was based off the Voyager 1 satellite, but it wasn't in that episode. It was in a movie. So apparently I got that all mixed up.
Interesting. That's why I didn't get it.
What movie was this in? Oh, so this was in the original Star Trek, the motion picture, like the first movie they made for Star Trek, like the first feature film. That was in that movie. So it wasn't in the episode, but the episode was used as plot inspiration for the movie screenwriting.
I didn't care for the movies. The movies weren't that good to me.
I'm not gonna lie, man. Star Trek is a very episodical sort of like a format idea. It's like it just doesn't really do well as a movie. Like honestly, folks, I feel like all the Star Trek movies were really kind of reaching to really make them work well or be compelling. Like I would have to say honestly, folks, like if you ask me which one's better in one form or another, Star Trek or Star Wars, I would say as far as watching them when I watched them, I would say that Star Trek was better for the episodes and Star Wars was a lot better for the films because the the Star Wars films are great and very interesting and very neat with the world building. And Star Trek's a lot better on its episodical side of things because it explores certain topics on an episodical basis and it just doesn't do that in the movie well at all. But a huge thanks to you once again for that support, Gunfox, and helping this channel to keep it running. And with that, we're on the next one.
We also have a $50 support from none other than 805 Drifter. And thank you, Roast Drifter, for that $50 support. And he said, enjoy Drinks on Me. And I only have time to watch once a month. And I appreciate it every single time.
And a big thanks to you for support and helping this channel to keep on running. And I gotta say, I thank you so much for enjoying this channel. Once a month's not bad, actually. I'm always shocked that people watch more than once or twice a month. Honestly, I'm always like, damn, I'm like, they're watching a lot. And I gotta thank you greatly for your support and helping this channel to keep on running, because if it wasn't for folks like you, we would never be able to make this thing possible, and we wouldn't be able to keep it running. And so a humongous thanks to you so much once again. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And we have a absolutely monumental $400 super chat from none other than Cerberus3. And thank you very much, Cerberus, for by far the largest super chat of the night and extremely generous to say the least. And we do appreciate that very, very much. And Cerberus said, I hope everybody is safe. And a song lyric me and other service members seems to agree on Iran. If there ever was a time to cross the effing line, it's right now. If there was ever a day to point the blame, it's right now. And they start the war, we wear the boots. They lose the battle, we lose the troops, trading our lives for gold. Dio presso liber.
I gotta thank you massively for the support, Cerberus3, and I gotta say, it is a pretty big mess in the Middle East. We've been saying that for the whole war at this point because of how badly it's been going, and I would definitely agree. You know, it's It's a nasty one. It's a nasty situation here. I don't even know how to break it down anymore and how messed up it is because there's so many different factors and facets and angles of this thing that are so messed up beyond belief. That's why I always say here whenever I go, yeah, it's pretty messed up. It's like it's hard to even begin with everything that's messed up and how each one of them is branched off to create basically a Hydra's head where one problem creates three more problems, and then each one of those problems creates another three problems, and they just keep going, and none of them are ever fixed. It only continues to compound. But a humongous thanks for that unbelievable support and helping this channel to keep it running. Because if it wasn't for folks like you, we would not be able to make this channel possible and we wouldn't be able to keep it running. And we wouldn't be able to keep it running to report the news that we report on here and to also be able to have a place for the LSA to gather around every single night. So a humongous thanks to you so much once again. I hope that does address that incredibly well. And a humongous thanks to you, Cerberus, for being a channel legend here of the Lee Spring Army. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
And a huge shout out to Cerberus once again for that massive support right there. Truly generous indeed. And we also have a $20 support actually from Gunfox once more. And Gunfox said the Pioneer 10, originally designated Pioneer F, launched in 1972 that completed the first mission to the planet Jupiter and was the first spacecraft to traverse the asteroid belt. And question from the chat, March 4th, 1994, STS-60.
Man, this is really cool. Look at it, man. They took a picture of it on its way to Jupiter.
Look, how'd they do that?
Well, you know, they just sent the little dude that runs the thing inside the satellite outside to take a picture real quick, and then he went back inside.
Man, it's just a render.
Yeah, it's a render, man. He said, how do they do that? And I was like, how long can I keep the joke going? I didn't keep it going long at all. But still, a really neat satellite. Honestly, the satellites are very neat to me. One satellite that I found incredibly interesting. It's not really, well, it's a satellite in a way, but not really a satellite like a deep space satellite like these would be the Hubble. But I think everyone finds the Hubble to be neat because everyone was like, man, the Hubble's so cool. Look at all the pictures it took. And it took a lot of cool pictures. So that's really the only one I know of, to be entirely honest. But still, the Pioneer 10, that's really neat. And it was the first to traverse the asteroid belt. You know, I've always heard that this asteroid belt that exists between Mars and Jupiter is extremely dangerous because we actually tried to send a manned spaceship through it. It might get ripped apart, is what I've heard. I'm not sure if that's true or not. But still kind of wild that there actually is kind of like a dividing line between Venus, Mercury, Earth, and Mars, and then Jupiter is way outside. Well, I mean, extremely outside of this asteroid belt deal that exists here. Really interesting stuff, honestly, but still a humongous thanks to you for support and helping this channel to keep running, and I hope that does address that incredibly well, the best we possibly can there, at least from what I know, the limited bit I know about satellites. And with that, we're on the next one.
We also have here another 20 from Gunfox, and he said in this one, he said August 7th, 1974, Frenchman Philippe Petit walks out onto a cable he's rigged up from 1,350 feet in the air between the Twin Towers, 626 Battle at Constantinople, 322 BC Battle of the Cranon between Athens and Macedon.
You know, that French guy who walked across that cable between the Twin Towers. Kind of crazy, honestly. Like, who in the world could ever imagine getting out on a tightrope between two of the tallest buildings in the world and walking across it? I couldn't. Like, I certainly couldn't. I could not have that in
He was
me.
making them all free, couldn't refuse. Free cable.
Ah, man. Oh, man. That's a good one. That's actually a pretty good one. But, man, honestly, also, let's see here. The Battle of Constantinople at 626. Battle of Constantinople. Let's see here. Let me pull up this specific battle. There were so many battles of Constantinople. 626. I'm sure that the Byzantines or the Romans technically won this one. Yep, they did. It was a Byzantine victory because if they lost, Constantinople would have fallen. And you know what's neat, folks? What's really cool, actually, is that there is an area of Istanbul in the modern day where you can actually see where the wall of the once great city of Constantinople stood, and it's right out here. You can actually see the wall because it's still standing, even today. Let me show it to y'all. That is the old Byzantine wall, and this wall has been here since the city fell, largely untouched, in the 1440s, when the city fell finally to the Ottomans, and the Byzantine Empire, or the Western Roman Empire, or the Roman Empire, whichever way you want to call it, finally collapsed. And it's kind of crazy, folks, to think that they've just kind of largely kept it here. Like, it's just still there. And what's also really neat to know, folks, is that on the other side of Constantinople to the north, right here, was a small settlement that existed around this tower. It wasn't that big, but its whole purpose, in a way, was to extend a chain from here to about the other side. It was a humongous chain in the Golden Horn, which is this little bay that exists right here north of Constantinople. And that would stop ships of an invading force from making their way up the Golden Horn and generally bypassing the city of Constantinople itself and setting up a landing force on what was believed to be the weaker parts of the city, which were up here on the northern part of the wall. And so when the Ottomans actually took the city finally, what they had to do first, because they had to go about the siege in a particular way to make the city fall properly, is that they took this little northern settlement here and actually removed the chain on the Golden Horn, which allowed for their ships to sail past and up the Golden Horn to create a armed invasion force that would be on the very northern perimeter of the main wall. And once that happened, and generally once that small settlement on the other side of the Golden Horn was taken, I believe it was Constantine the 14th at the time, who was the emperor, or Justinian or something like that, Justinian the Ninth or someone like that. I don't really remember the specific emperor, but I generally remember, as the story was told, that's when they generally knew that the battle was already lost, and that emperor made the decision to actually die in the city instead of trying to flee, that he would die alongside the defending garrison and fight to the death, which they all did, and the city did fall to the Ottomans in the end. Kind of a wild story in a way, but a huge thanks to you so much for the support and help with this channel to keep on running, because it is folks like you who help to make this thing possible and help us to keep this thing running, Gunfox, and we love the days in history. They are truly fascinating. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And also at the request of Cerberus 3, he said, as I said previously, he doesn't want to disclose his MOS in the military, but he said, can you tell chat what de-oppressor Liber means to the chat? Good people that work as hard as steel. And in case y'all didn't know, to explain what Cerberus is saying here, that phrase right there is a Latin phrase, which means to free the oppressed. And the significance of it is it's used by the United States Army Special Forces. Specifically, I think it's the Green Berets, I believe, is who uses that phrase right there. So that's what that means, just so everybody's information.
Interesting. You know, I think I pulled it up and looked at that before, but I kind of forgotten it. I always forget the Latin phrases, folks. I never forget. I never remember Latin too well. Salve, qui tibi es nomen Andre, or something like that. I think that's how you say like hello, my name is Andrew or something in Latin, but that's all about I know. But anyways, with that, we're on the next one.
And we also have here a super chat from none other than Old Warrior Fellow, put in 20. And Old Warrior said, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, Pakistan have signed a mutual defense treaty similar to NATO, and the commonality is that all three are Sunni, while Iran is Shia. And are they going to be more assertive than NATO? The bar is low.
I like how in parentheses, man, it said bar is low. It's like, yeah, the bar is pretty low. I don't think so, at least to me, because it's like NATO sets the bar really low, but globally the bar is extremely low, at least in kind of like American aligned countries. They are very slow to react or move to anything. I mean, Pakistan would probably go to war with India quicker than Turkey or Saudi Arabia would get assertive, because Turkey is playing Turkey games is the best way to say it. They're still doing Turkey things down there, and Saudi Arabia doesn't really want to mess anything up. They want to just kind of be a mercantile nation that trades their oils with the world and makes a whole ton of money and doesn't really have to do anything outside of that, kind of just maintaining the status quo. So I don't really think they're going to be doing a whole lot. But it is quite an interesting defensive pact, though, that I will say. And I think that certainly is playing a lot more into Turkish ambitions than really anyone else's ambitions in this whole pact at the moment. But a big thanks to your support and help with this channel to keep it running. I hope that does address that incredibly well. And with that, we're on the next one.
We also have a 20 from Gabby White. And Gabby said a few years back, the Chinese were experimenting with launching smaller drones from submarines, and they were launching them out of the tubes, the torpedo tubes. And I don't know if there's a YouTube video still up or not. And now that you mentioned that, Gabby, I do recall that. Now that you mentioned it, I forgot about that, actually. So thanks for jogging our memory on that. I think they were experimenting with that, but I'm not sure if they ever fielded it. And also, I don't think Russia possesses that capability. I think maybe China just simply is experimenting with it, but I doubt Russia has it. So unless China's sending submarines over there, then it's probably still not that. But I mean, I did forget that, though. That's a good point. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to say, big thanks to your support, and I think I do remember That maybe it's so hard to remember everything that we cover. We cover, I think it's about 400 bulletin points a week, so it's really hard to remember everything. But I think I remember that we showed a video like that. I don't know if the Russians would have a comparable ability though. But a huge thanks to you for support and helping this channel to keep it running. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we're on the next one.
We also have a $20 support from Big Ron. Big Ron. Big Ron. But thank you very much, Big Ron, for that $20 support. He said, is it a feasible idea to use an EMP on Iran? And would it stop Iran from being able to carry out most of any kind of attacks in the future?
Sadly, the only way we have to create an EMP blast is through a nuclear explosion, which would require us to use a nuclear weapon on Iran. So unfortunately, we really have no effective way of creating an EMP without causing a nuclear conflict, and therefore our options are quite slim on that. And so I would generally say we probably wouldn't use a EMP. But a big thanks to you for the support and helping this channel to keep it running, and I hope that does address that incredibly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
We also have a 20 from Give Up Now, who put in that $20 support and said BNSF 4141.
BNSF 4141. Now what's up with this one here? Well, let me take a look at this here. BNSF 4141. Well, this is just a standard -9, isn't it? Like I don't know what's special about this one. I do have to say though, I kind of think I like that old BNSF logo where they had the cigar band on the front. Like the old Atchison, Topeka, and Santa Fe. I actually think this is a little bit better than the modern paint jobs they have. That's just me though. I thought the -9s were pretty neat too. Like, you know, the original GEVO basically. And these things have become the mainstay of all American Class 1 railroads. Basically, everyone runs these things, or some upgraded version of it these days. But wait a minute, hang on. Are you talking about Union Pacific 4141? The George H.W. Bush? Is that what you're talking about?
Now watch this rail.
Man, I mean, this isn't the George W. Bush. This is the George H.W. Bush. This is the Daddy
Oh, they're all the
Bush.
same thing. It's the Bush dynasty.
Read my lips. No more taxes. How'd that work? That's like, well, that didn't work out too
Read
well.
my lips. Dad lied.
Man, you know what's interesting? I just realized this. This thing is an SD-70 Ace. I wonder why they picked
That's
that.
crazy. That's crazy they put the ace up their sleeve like that. You know, it's like having a full deck of cards, a full hand, and then having in flesh.
Man, you know,
Royal flush, they said, sir. Royal flush. Golden toilet, sir. We're on a royal flush it. They said, we got a full hand, sir, a full hand. Now, don't let the people take a peek at the cards. They said, in Uno, you want to have a full deck in your hands. That's a winner. They have a full deck. That's just how you lose. That's say, sir, that's how you lose the Uno. That's called a reverso. That's what that's called, sir.
man, that's crazy you just mentioned that guy, because look, it's Union Pacific 4547.
It's a real great honor. They put this on the side. It's a great train, fast train, best train. They said, sir, this thing rides rails like smooth like a caddy. They said, it rides those rails so nice. They said, sir, make a couple trains, sir, just a couple of them. Said, come on, sir.
Oh, look, Matthew, someone made a variation. Oh, well, I mean,
Sir, we don't like that paint job, sir. That's not a good one there. That's what you call a cancellation job, sir. Sir, they're going to cancel them for that. It's a shame that they showed that.
I will have to say, though, folks, the Abraham Lincoln is probably the better one that Union Pacific's done recently. I would have to be honest with y'all, folks. I don't like this thing at all, not because of the president or anything. It's just that everyone else is doing 250th anniversary paint schemes, and Union Pacific wasted a whole engine basically on trying to kind of like shill a little in a way, so that way they could maybe see that the merger might go through allegedly a little bit better. At least that's what I would think behind this, because isn't it kind of interesting, folks, that they would paint up an engine and, you know, name it after the current sitting president in the midst of a possible large, you know, like, I'm just saying, it seems a little bit interesting.
Yeah. It's called liquid lubrication. That's what they call it, a political maneuver. I said, sir, it's really good when you do that kind of stuff. I really like it when you do that. It's a very nice thing. It's a nice thing. They said, sir, it's a nice gesture. They said a gesture, brand new word, not jest. It's serious. It's not a jest. It's a real, it's a stir.
Oh, by the way, y'all, yeah, they put in all this work into this one, right? UP 4547. So what do y'all think they did for their actual 250th anniversary engine, number 1776? What do y'all think they did for that? They put a little
I don't
250
know.
on the front of the nose. And that was it.
That's what we like. We like low-cost editions. That's right. We want it cheap. We said, make it cheap, sir. Cut costs, cut corners, any way you can. We don't want a brand new paint job. Save on the paint buckets. Put them back in Lowe's. We don't want those. Lowe's blows, sir. It's not a good place.
It's ugly. It's dumb. Why in the world would you just do that? That's dumb as hell. Everyone else is doing super cool stuff. Even CSX, which literally does basically nothing. Well, actually, they do heritage units. That's kind of neat. Even they did their own thing. Look at this. They got CSX 250. Whoa, look at that. Beautiful, honestly. It looks super sick. Look at that. That's really neat. They did that, but
It's like a moving carnival car, sir. They said you could belong in Barnum and Bailey. They said Barnum, he was a good man, but I didn't know about Bailey. I never knew him. He was not a great guy, that Bailey. But Barnum was something else. He knew how to put on a show. Those elephants, like those elephants, they don't forget, sir. That they also go into hiding. They like to stay in hospitals and not come out for press conferences. But it's a crazy thing, this train. They said the train, sir, it never stops. It's like a freight train. They said it's got a lot of momentum. It's got a lot of momentum. That's something we could really use right now, sir. Some momentum.
I gotta be honest with you, real type shit. Like a Shadow is your money gang. We love casting spells. But anyways, I'm losing it at this point. But a big thanks to your support and helping this channel to keep on running. And I hope that does address that well. Give up now. And with that, we're on the next one.
And our next super chat goes to none other than Give Up Now once again, who puts in a $50 support. And thank you very much, Give Up Now, once again for that generous support once more. He said, yes, 4144, I meant UP. But sir, that was an interesting take on international relations via It's a strange thing, sir. He said, via I'm not going to the border, sir. I'm not going. I said, sir, they're stopping me from going. He said, don't go. I said,
Look at him. He tried to pick up the weight. Drops the thing, walks off. It's like, anyways. So you were talking about UP 4141. This thing is actually now interred permanently at the George H.W. Bush Presidential Library in its own little corner.
that's nice.
Yeah, it's actually kind of cool looking. I will have to say, though, folks, that Air Force One paint scheme does go pretty damn hard on an engine, like a railway engine. That actually does look pretty damn good, I'm not going to lie. I got to tell you, folks, I really like the traditional Air Force One paint scheme. I think it's iconic. I got to say that new Air Force One, it looks like a normal business jet, if we're being completely honest, like, at least in my opinion. It's like, it just doesn't look that good. That's what I'm trying to say, folks. I think this was better.
Yeah. Also, by the way, I really genuinely hope that nobody's at work right now is playing the stream out loud, and then that noise right there came over the speaker, because if it did and you weren't able to see the visual and get the context, that was probably a very awkward conversation.
Man, the boss went by. So do you have those? What is that? Like, man, what the hell is that?
That's right, sir. That's right. you hear that guy right there saying that, and then you hear that. Oh man, that's awful.
Honestly, that is pretty bad. But beyond that, though, a big thanks to you for your support once again. Give up now and help this channel to keep running. And we like to give our best take on international relations. I think it was a good shot, me personally. But a huge thanks to you once again. And with that, we're on the next one.
And our next one here is going to go to none other than Give Up Now once again. And thank you, good sir, as well, for the third support. He said LSA times 4.
LSA. I think that's about 9. I'm not sure. But beyond that, though, I do thank you greatly for the support and help this channel to keep it running. Give up now, because if it wasn't for folks like you who support this channel and helped us keep this thing running, we would not be able to say that the Lee Spring Army will never truly die. And so a huge thanks to you so much once again. And with that, we're on the next one.
Also, someone said if they were blasting down the speakers, they just got fired. It's like, can you imagine trying to explain that one to your boss? Like, you're listening to that and you hear, like out of the blue, and they're like, I swear it's just political commentary. That's all it is. Yeah, political commentary, eh? That's the new thing they're calling it. They're calling it political commentary. That political commentary is taking a very nasty turn.
Oh, better yet, man. Like, if someone was watching this, they're like, wow, this is great. I had to show my wife this. And then they go walking over to their wife, hey, honey, check this out. And then they turn it around, like, the screen, and then they just hear, And the wife's gonna be like, we might want to consider a divorce. Man, like it's like that's gonna be brutal right there. Yeah, honestly,
Man.
we might tone that down a little for the sake of everyone watching.
Well, you know, a little conversation that just gets them closer with the boss. That's all. They can bond over political commentary.
Man, it was a live stream so good, even HR wanted to watch it.
HR said, "Let me see what you're looking at real quick. What you looking at?"
Oh man, but with that, we're on to the next one.
And our next one here goes to STL Casper, who puts in a 20. And thank you, STL, as well, for that support. He said, long-time listener and first-time caller. Oh, hello. He said, a question. Why do we keep acting as if Europe will enact Article 5 and Russian will be in Berlin before they could even talk about enacting it? Or am I crazy? LOL.
Well, it's because technically the one who's attacked has to invoke Article 4, which then moves to Article 5. That's how it's written in the NATO charter. So if like the best, and this is really how all defensive pacts work. So to explain it this way, if you have like a group of dudes, like and they're like in a tribe, and then like another tribe of dudes comes over and you've all agreed in your tribe beforehand that if anybody like shoots any of y'all with an arrow or like runs you through with a spear, then that guy, when he's like dying or very wounded, has to be like, hey, I want y'all all to avenge me or like defend me or something, and you have to tag everyone in. And it's like, okay, that's the agreement. And like, we're sticking to that militantly. Like, only the person attacked can tag everyone else in. So then another tribe comes over, whips out an arrow, takes out one of your guys, like fatally wounds him. And everyone's like, oh my God. And you all gather around him. He's like, come on, you gotta tag us in. And he's like, no, I'm not gonna tag y'all in until I'm about to actually die. And then like when they're almost dying and their last breath, okay, I'm tagging y'all in. That's when everyone can react. And that's how defensive pacts are written in general, and that's also how the NATO charter is written as well. So if Poland has a missile land on its territory, we can invoke Article 4 on their behalf. They actually have to invoke Article 4 of collective defense, because technically no other country can do it because we weren't attacked, Poland was attacked. And let me actually go get the specific wordage of the NATO charter here really quickly to read it exactly and interpret it directly. So here we go. Here's the NATO website with the NATO charter. Let's see here. So the parties will consult together whenever, in the opinion of any of them, the territorial integrity, political independence, or security of the parties is threatened. But Article 6 lays out that for the purposes of Article 5, an armed attack on one or more of the parties is deemed to include an armed attack on the territory of any parties in Europe of North America. And so because of that wordage right there, at the very beginning of the first bullet in Article 6, on the territory of any of the parties in Europe or North America, it's generally been inferred historically, and it still is these days, that the party that's attacked would have to be the one that invokes Article 4 to move to Article 5. And that's how we've seen it so far historically, and any prior instance where Article 4 was ever invoked through the Cold War, and in the modern day, is also the same. Whoever had the incident occur against them is the one that has to get the ball rolling. And if they don't, we're kind of at an impasse and kind of stuck. So sadly, if your opinion is that Europe won't invoke, anyone in Europe will invoke Article 4, then unfortunately we just got to wait till someone gets steamrolled that will, or hope that they will eventually invoke Article 4 and Article 5 as a result of being attacked if it actually becomes pretty bad. So I hope that does address it the best I can, STL Capster. Great question, by the way, because the NATO charter is very important, especially for what we cover in Europe right now on the channel, because the NATO charter is literally the law of the land when it comes to how we can respond, how the system operates to respond, and how all of those mechanisms actually work in reality. So a huge thanks to you for support and helping this channel to keep it running. And also thank you for being a long-time listener and a first-time caller as far as super chats go. And so a huge thanks to you so much once again. I hope that does address that well. And also, Tristan said technically not true. The thing is though is that, well, let me go look at that here really quickly. Let's see, NATO response to September 11th. Because I'm sure we had to invoke Article 4, because you have to invoke Article 4 to get to Article 5, I'm pretty sure. Let's see here. Collective defense. Let me go here. Let me see here. The origin of Article 5. Article 5. What counts as an armed attack? How's Article 5 triggered? Let's see what happens when Article 5 is triggered. Okay, so here we go. Uh, oh no. So they actually had to go through the Article 4 process because on the NATO website right here, which recounts the history, it says on September 11th, the North Atlantic Council issued a statement condemning the attacks and expressing solidarity with the United States. On the evening of the 12th of September 2001, less than 24 hours after the attacks, allies met in the North Atlantic Council. And that right there is Article 4, which is the consultation. And the Council agreed that if it is determined that this attack was directed from abroad against the United States, it shall be regarded as an action covered by Article 5 of the Washington Treaty. So that right there was the Article 4 invocation, where everyone said, if it is deemed to be an armed attack by the United States, we're already all tapped in under Article 5. And that's why it immediately went into an Article 5 invocation and then action was taken. So as far as that goes, a great question, by the way, but there still was an Article 4 consultation process, and the United States didn't just unilaterally scream at NATO, y'all are at war, go get them, because they still had to all get on the same page that if the U.S. says it was an armed attack, then we will go with them wherever they want us to go. And then the U.S. said it was an armed attack, it is an Article 5 invocation, and then they said, okay, it's Article 5, and then they all went with it. So I hope that does address it the best I can. And a big thanks to you once again for support, STL Casper, and bringing up a very interesting question there. And with that, we're on to the next one.
We also had 10 from Robert Krogan, and thank you, Robert, as well. He said, good evening, enforcers in LSA, and it looks like the art of the deal going to win it with Iran. I think we're going to be fleeced. But question from the chat.
Honestly, at this point, I don't even know. Like, I hate to say, like, I don't even know a lot to the Middle East, but who knows? We'll probably get, we might get fleeced. We might end up keeping this thing going on for years. We might end up turning this whole thing around and winning it. Who knows?
Yeah, real. I've never understood why people are so upset about getting fleeced. Just like, who wouldn't want a free jacket?
Man, that's like one of those practical Joker things, man. You want to fade? Bro, like, man, you want to get fleeced?
Yeah. Honestly, I never thought about that. That is a good one. Like if you're trying to do one of those, like, what is it, double entendre pranks or whatever, where it's like it's a double meaning. Like, could walk to somebody and be like, "Hey, man, you trying to get fleeced?" And they're like, "What do you mean, man? Get fleeced?" And then you like whip out a coat.
Man, bro, you fleeced there. Man, but anyways, with that, a big thanks for your support, Robert Krogan, and we will make sure to get one from the chat. So what do we got, Matthew?
All right, so
you missed it, man. That was so late. That was so damn late.
That was so late. I mean, I was queuing it up for when I made the joke, but I actually forgot to take my mouse cursor off. I've done that multiple times at this point. But thank you, Rob, for that good support right there. To get that question in honor of Rob, this one goes to Basted with Mustard, who said, "What's going on with the U.S. strikes, and will they ever make a push?"
U.S. strikes are on hold right now. I need to say that very clearly because there's probably someone out there who's claiming that the U.S. just wiped Iran's ass today. I'm very sure in some place somewhere, Matthew knows who I'm talking about. But beyond that, though,
Say what?
well, you know, there's probably someone out there for sure today that has put out something with a title along the lines of the Iranians did something and the U.S. just went over there and wiped their ass for them or something.
Oh.
I'm very sure there's probably a title like that out there somewhere today. But despite those titles and despite the statements, the U.S. has done nothing as far as striking Iran right now. Everything's been put back on hold again because there's a statement that there might be a deal on the table. And will we ever make a push? Maybe, but it's very hard to say right now, and I would say that based off everything we've seen so far, probably not. But I hope that does address the live chat well. And I also got to ask, why are you basted with mustard? That is a question I must ask. I've heard your name so many times over these recent weeks, I just need to know the answer. Why are you basted with mustard? Is that like a flavor enhancer? Like rather than like normal like basting on like a turkey or something. I don't understand it. But anyways, a big thanks to your support and a great question there. And also a big thanks to Robert Krogan for supporting the channel and sponsoring live chat. And with that, we're on the next one.
And this one goes to Raven Bata, who puts in a 10. And Raven said, "Thank you, brothers, for being logical in this very logic-removed world these days, and God help us."
And a big thanks to your support, Raven Pata, and helping this channel to keep on running. And we always try our best. We try our best to be as logical and reasonable as possible, and I hope that we have been able to do that once again tonight. And I hope that everyone's been enjoying it. We always try and make sure to approach things from level-headed perspectives on the channel, so that we were talking more so from a realistic, grounded standpoint, than almost like a caricature like some people do out there these days. But a huge thanks to you so much once again, and with that, we're on to the next one.
And this one goes to Cooper, who puts in a 10. And they said, Russia's trying to distract their own as it keeps falling.
Honestly, you're onto something there. Like, you're onto something there. I think that is the case. But a huge thanks to your support and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we're on the next one.
We also have a 10 from a Ripster, 435. He put in a 10 and said, Enforcer Matt for president. Now that right there is something that I can get behind right there. I must say, Enforcer Matt for president. That has a good ring to it, a good ringtone to it. I could put that on the phone if I didn't have an Apple. But I like the sound of that right there. I think he's a good man. Ripster, he's a great guy. He's always been there. He's always been a great guy. He saved cats from trees when he was younger. He did great deeds. Great person. He of course showed up to every UFC fight. He did great things. We love Ripster. He's a great guy. And we don't know these other people, but we know Ripster. But Enforcer, what say you?
Man, I'm supposed to add comment to the Enforcer Man for President super chat. What am I supposed to say? Well, like,
Go ahead and give an endorsement. Go ahead and endorse him. It's right. It's the best thing to do. Is give an endorsement.
I gotta be honest with you. I think he might do a good job. Not as good as me. Not as good as me. No one can do as good as me. But he might do a good job. I might back him. I might back him a little bit, maybe just a tad. But we all have to remember that everything lives and dies on my dime and my time. I made this country, and the military wouldn't be anything, and the government wouldn't be anything, and the people wouldn't exist, and the nation wouldn't exist, and the flag and the anthem wouldn't be around if it wasn't for good old me. It literally everything came into being once I was born. They said, "Let there be light," and the nation was born.
Wait. I just realized somebody's trying to phone in an endorsement right now. Let's get him on the line. I would like to endorse Enforcer Matt for president. He's a great guy. He's only run over one or two white-tailed deer in his life. It's not anything to be concerned about, but it's probably a qualification for that position. He's not an MD, but he has his stuff together. But put him in the Department of Health.
Last night when I was driving down the highway, I saw two raccoons on the side of the road fighting, and I got out and threw down a big Benji, and I said I got 100 on the big one on the right. It turns out the little one ate his innards out, but outside of that whole story, honestly, Enforcer Matt's not that bad of a guy.
I'm not lying. That one's over the top, man. That dude sounds like he's in his last stage, like stage 4.
Did you hear him on the recent thing on like the clips that came out of CNN? Dude, he sounded just like that.
Well, I heard him say, "You wouldn't understand because you're not a scientist." Well, you're not a scientist either. It's like, well, yeah, really. So why is he saying that? It's like, why is he saying that? Like he's acting like he's a scientist. Like, what is your point? It's like, why would you even set yourself up like that? It's like, you're not you don't have an MD, you're not a scientist, but yet at the same time, you're like, well, you wouldn't understand because you're not a scientist. It's like you just set yourself up for like an embarrassing situation. Why would you say that?
Also, man, it's like, isn't this whole thing is that he's like anti-establishment, like the scientists are wrong, and then he tells like the interviewer, well, you wouldn't understand because you're not a part of the establishment. It's like, what's the gist here? Like, what are we going for? Are you a pro-establishment or anti-establishment? Which is it? It's like, I don't even get it. But also another thing, let's see here. I saw someone say, oh man, well, I don't know why. It just slipped my mind completely, man. I had it there. I had it there before you said that. And I was like, oh, man, I need to get to that next. And then I did my thing. And then I was like, I just totally forgot what I was going to say. It's such a shame when that happens, Real shame, real tragedy. But beyond that, though, with that, it is time for us to move on and into the next one.
And our next one goes to Roberto Hamoso, who puts in a 10. He said, remember the Chinese Coast Guard ships that crashed into each other the 11th of August, 2025? And that's crazy. That was that long ago. That's unbelievable, actually. Like, for the time this disappearing, actually. That's blowing my mind right now. But they said Chinese military website announced on Thursday the passing of 2 martyrs in maritime sovereignty operations 1 year later. China's getting in on the martyr game? I didn't know they were into that.
Man, you martyr yourself for the communist revolution. You know that, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, that's like, that revolutionary zeal died a long time ago. They're like hybrid, like capitalists now.
Yeah, but they use the same terms. I mean, they still have the plenums and all that stuff. Like they use all of the revolutionary terms. It's just that none of it really means anything anymore. Like saying martyred in China doesn't mean the same thing in Iran. Like the whole theological concept behind it. Just saying martyred in China means you just died as a government servant or a government official or a military officer or something along those lines. It's kind of interesting that way, quite interesting, honestly. But still, that took forever. Also, you know what's weird, Matthew? Like, this is something that really warped my brain. Someone told me a couple of days ago that when it hits New Year's of 2027, which is only a couple of months from now, it's only 4 months away. Um, Crazily enough, 2019 will have been 8 years ago.
Yeah, the time's just flying. It flies when you have fun.
It does. It,
Except it hadn't been fun. And so we had the COVID, then we had the war. The COVID was before the war, wasn't it?
yeah, COVID was before the war, and then there was that little period right when COVID was kind of over, and there was like a couple of months before the war, like kind of a year or a little bit around there before the war, and then the war happened, and then we got to here.
Yeah, we're right here, right now. Time's flying. What's that say about the world? Time's flying, and it's not fun, but it's flying. What's that say?
It says that shit getting crazy on God, man.
Man, I think
Like
it says we're heading full speed toward a world war.
man, we're finally reaching Armageddon. Remember, man, when those rumors were coming out from the government that they were trying to bring forth the end of everything? It's like, oh man, that was a wild time. That was a long time ago too. That was like 6 months ago from this point where we're at right now. That was a half year ago that happened. Honestly, folks, it's just crazy how fast time is flying these days. Shoo-wee! Like literally everything that feels like it happened yesterday was like a year ago at this point. But anyways, with that, we are on to the next one.
Yeah, and I'm only 51 now. I was only 50 a week ago. But our next one here goes to Mr. Dig, who puts in a 10, and we do appreciate his support there, good sir. He did not leave a comment though, but we do appreciate that very, very much. We also have a 10 from Game Theory, who said, "I heard Hot Dog Man finally left a Minnesota State Fair for an all expenses paid vacation to a war zone. I guess he couldn't handle the heat of the Leaf Spring Army's grill."
I didn't hear that. I thought he was just going around on the like protesting shtick still or something.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, if he ought to go to a protest about his own, stupidity.
Oh, oh
It's a
man,
one man protest, a three man if he's crazy.
man. I gotta say, hot dog. Honestly, a hot dog man is something that I don't even think about at all anymore. Like yeah, like I think that super chat is the first time I've thought about hot dog man in months. Because thank the Lord. He basically fell off completely, and also he finally moved on because he got like beat down pretty badly from the continued harassment that he was trying to do on us. So like luckily that whole thing ended. He moved on. He's just going around terrorizing other people now. Like just because that's basically all the guy does. But a huge thanks to you for his support. Number this channel to keep it running. And with that, we're on the next one.
And also, by the way, to explain the three-man comment, I meant like himself, him, and him, I don't know how to me, myself, and I is what I was trying to say right there. I don't know how to put that in the other way. But anyways, moving on to our next one. This one goes to JSGO Sniper, who puts in a 10 and said, "I wish NATO or at least Poland and Germany would grow a pair and enter the war with Ukraine and send troops, jets, armor, and push Russia out of Ukraine. And someone has to do something."
I would say someone does have to do something, but I'm not really sure we would want to go that far. I think we would just generally want to let the Ukrainians keep fighting the war, but also make it clear that if the Russians want to expand the war to us, they're certainly not going to win that. I think that's more so what we want to do, because if we start entering the conflict actively in Ukraine, we're generally avoiding. We're generally kind of bypassing the whole objective we're trying right now, which is avoiding a war with Russia, because everyone's kind of voluntarily entering it at that point. But a big thanks to you for support, and number this channel to keep it running. And with that, we're on the next one.
Man, I heard a rumor that they might have to let that hot dog loving fella back into the military check the T levels, just to check just see what's going on with that T level. But anyways, though, moving on to our next one. This one goes to Tony Kaluha, who put in a 6. It said, "Long time watcher, but first time super chat, and thank you for always improving."
Boy, thank you so much for the kind words. We always try our best here. We do try our best. And I got to thank you greatly for the support and helping this channel to keep on running, because you help us to be able to always improve our show and hopefully make it a little bit better each and every night. And so huge thanks to you so much once again. And with that, we're on the next one.
We also have a 5 from TY Golden Flyer, who said, "Let's go and thank you for what you do, and here's a gallon of gas."
Man, a gallon of gas these days is so expensive. That used to be able to get you like like 1.7 gallons of gas. Now it's just a gallon. I tell you, folks, it's tough. It's tough out here. It's tough out here in these streets. I'll tell you what's even tougher, folks. I'll tell you what's tougher. You want to know what's tougher? Let me show you. Eureka.
No.
This is a tough place.
That looks fine to me.
Most of
That's
the buildings
BPOE block,
are abandoned.
a company store. I've always wanted to go shop at a place called a company store.
Man, isn't that from that old song that like Ernie Ford or Ernest Ford sang where he's like, "Some people say a man is made out of mud," like that whole thing?
I don't know about that.
Oh well, anyways, most of these buildings are completely abandoned. And honestly, folks, Eureka is like a ghost town. But look, there's a little group here, and they're just
Man, they were tailing the Google truck. Oh, what the hell? What are they trying to do? I guess, man, they're just driving down the street. A very convenient timing. The Google truck was right in front of them.
man, dun 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 dun. They're following it. Make sure to get on the camera. Man, honestly though, I respect it. But anyways, moving on from that, let's see. What's another rough place? Honestly, there's not a lot of rough places I can think of around here. Oh, I don't know. I mean, honestly, man, like it's kind of the interesting thing about Utah. There's not a lot of rough places, really. Like, let me think.
Utah's not known for its troubles. Let's just put it that way.
Man, I was born on them streets. Oh yeah, where? Provo. It's like get the hell out of here. Man, like,
Man, the worst thing that happened down in Provo is somebody like petted the dogs the wrong way or something like that. They're like that they pet the dog a little too hard or something like that. The dog got angry, so we're gonna have a town row over this. It's like there's nothing crazy going on down there. It's like maybe like somebody like spilled a soda in the wrong spot.
you know what? You know what's crazy, folks, is that like the big news here in Salt Lake most of the time is like nothing. Like there every once in a while like that shooting that happened. I think at the end of last year, there's like a shooting up near North like in downtown Salt Lake and all that. But beyond that, there's really not a lot that happens out here, which is always so interesting to me. The one thing though
Except
that
that one bad time though, that when Charlie got taken out, that was a bad one.
well, yeah, but I think that's kind of like a Dallas thing, It's like nothing bad ever happens in Dallas until JFK, and then well, I mean these days a lot crazy shit happens in Dallas, but back in the day nothing really crazy happened in Dallas a lot until that, and then it just went back to kind of normal afterwards. Um, but I mean really nothing extremely crazy happens out here for the most part. It's a pretty quiet place, rather than that incident and that other one that happened up in downtown about a half year ago. And you know what was wild about that, folks, is that when Charlie Kirk got shot, I was actually about 10 miles away or so when it happened. I was actually up the way because he was shot here in this university. He was actually shot right there. And if I remember correctly, I was sitting in an in and out on the side of I-15 somewhere up here. And that would be about, well, actually, that's about 18 miles away or so, somewhere around here. But I was up here in like the Bluffdale area or the Riverton area eating an In-N-Out burger. It was the first one I had ever had. I finally got an In-N-Out burger. And right when I was eating it, Matthew called me. He's like, "Oh, hey, that Charlie Kirk guy got shot, like right down in Orem." And I was like, "What?" I was like, "That's crazy." And then, of course, all of y'all know, the footage just kept coming out endlessly over that day. It was pretty brutal footage, unfortunate stuff. But anyways, outside of that whole wild story, I think that's probably the craziest thing that's ever happened in Utah in modern history, probably, at least from what I know.
Yeah, it could be, and also that Salt Lake.
Oh yeah, the Salt Lake drying up, but that's not really like a criminal thing, That's not like something you hear on the local
That's
news,
not
like
criminal.
breaking news: the Salt Lake stood someone up and like mugged them or something. It's like it's like you don't hear that.
It's gonna mug the city of all of our intelligence of the arsenic keeps flying around.
Man, I gotta say, man, I love Salt Lake. I feel smarter every day because I'm just getting dumber. But anyways, with that, with that, folks, with that, it is time for us to move on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Cerberus 3, who puts in a 50. And thank you very much, Cerberus, once again for that $50 support, even after that massive 400 earlier. We appreciate it once more. And Cerberus said, not political, but how the hell, after handling multiple diseases and tracking them, we have measles in record numbers and years, a cyclospora outbreak, untraceable on source, and waiting for polio, they failed across the board, and one from the chat. And honestly, I think the proof is in the pudding here. I mean, I think there's a correlation between defunding certain departments and seeing a return of unusual diseases. I'm not sure if maybe we can just dismiss that right off the bat. I mean, it seems to be a correlation between the two. They haven't been here in a long time, but all of a sudden they showed up once departments got cut. It seems like a pretty clear, connection. At least in my opinion, I would have to agree. But Enforcer, what say you?
Yeah, I'd have to agree. Like that whole deal has been pretty stupid. Like the whole like really the only way to describe it is the whole anti-vax thing going on. It's like that's pretty stupid because it's like they have like all the people who are anti-vaccine these days, like anti-measles vaccines and all that. All those people never lived in a time when those diseases were rampant, like smallpox and whatnot. And it's like those were raking the U.S. population year over year up until the vaccines were created, and there were tons of people who were disabled permanently from them, who died from them. I mean, there was tens of thousands of people who usually died from these illnesses every year. It's like that's a really goofy thing to see that now people are not getting vaccinated as much, so we don't have that kind of herd immunity. So these things are beginning to rear their head again and starting to spread around, affecting the public health quite negatively in the long run. But a huge thanks to you for support and helping this channel to keep it running. And with that, we will make sure to take one from the chat. So what do we got?
And the one from the chat is going to go to Old Warrior Fella. He said, "Have you seen the new A10? Its tail and nose look just like an F-22.
The
They've
new
upgraded it again."
Let's see. New A10. Let's take a look. Uh I haven't heard oh wait a minute. Oh, that's a clickbait video, so that one's not real. I'm trying to find this because I don't see them upgrading the A10 anywhere. It looks like everyone who's saying that they're doing that is like kind of putting out like a clickbait article because I don't see the US Air Force saying anything about it. So yeah, unfortunately, oh, well that one's AI made. So yeah, I don't, let's see, hang on. Let me see here. So the most recent publication that the Air Force made was showing the normal A10, the A10C, and I don't really see anything here about a new A10. So I think that might have just been fake news that was reporting that because I don't hear of any plans to modernize the A10. They just keep expanding its lifespan longer and longer for a couple of more years, but I haven't heard of any upgrade programs being made. But a big thanks to your support and helping this channel to keep it running. And with that, we're on the next one.
And our next one here is going to go to Ian Mitson, who put in a 5 and said, "It seems like what Ukraine doesn't get, they learn to make themselves. And what are the chances for them to build their own versions of Patriots?"
And I'd have to say that chance of building their own version of the Patriots, it's very low because they don't get the licensing rights. They're not going to try and produce one on their own because if they do, then they're going to get at odds with the United States and also the intellectual rights, and also the actual patent rights that exist for those companies to be able to produce those systems because there's a lot of proprietary tech in them. They could also be labeled as a supply risk afterwards because that would show the Ukrainians would be willing to rip everything apart we give them and then reverse engineer it. And so that could probably affect them pretty badly. So I would say they probably won't be making one on their own, sadly. But a big thanks to you for support and helping this channel to keep it running, and I hope that does address that well. Now, well, I do have to say this, though. As far as making a comparable alternative entirely from the ground up, they might do that, and I think they're working with some European countries to try and make that happen. But as far as reverse engineering and just making a carbon copy of a Patriot without the U.S. giving them license rights, most certainly not. But a huge thanks to you so much once again, and with that, we're on the next one.
We also have a 5 from Raven Bata, who said, "NATO chooses not to fight back. Pathetic and very weak."
I'd agree. It is quite pathetic and weak, in my opinion, as well. And so a huge thanks to you for support, and we're on the next one.
We also have a 5 from Jason Curling, who said, "Where will Europe get oil this winter if Russian oil is getting destroyed?"
Well, they haven't gotten oil from Europe for a very long time. They actually got all of their oil from the Middle East, which is the problem right now with the blockade on the Hormuz, is that we don't really know where the Europeans are going to be getting their oil, and the only place they can get it rather than the Middle East or Russia is us. So hopefully we can get the Strait of Hormuz reopened so that way they have their little cup to sip out of in the Middle East as far as the oil goes. So big thanks to you once again for support and helping this channel to keep it running. And with that, we're on the next one.
We also have a 5 from ODST Moody, who said, "How well could Norway disrupt the Russian Northern Fleet, or when this goes hot?" And sat images of the Russian fleet in Severomorsk show lots of refurbishment.
Norway really can't do a whole lot. Norway doesn't have a humongous navy, but I'll pull up some of their naval equipment So that way we can say that with some knowledge. The Norwegian Navy. Let me go get this. The Royal Norwegian Navy. This sounds like Royal Caribbean. Let me go get the ship list here, real quick. Let's see here. A list of active ships in the Royal Norwegian Navy. We've got this absolutely baller picture of a German coastal patrol sub battling the high seas surface. That's pretty cool looking. Let's see here. And then they also have for their service ships, they have a couple of frigates of the Fridtjof Nansen class, which is a Spanish frigate. So this is the largest vessel that they have. And they would be able to conduct coastal defense, and they would be able to try and stop the Russians from breaking out immediately, but really most of the naval power would have to come from the British, primarily the French, and also the United States, because they're the largest preeminent naval powers in NATO at the moment. So I hope that does address it the best I can, but as far as Norway's naval forces go, they are very limited. But with that, we are on to the next one.
We also have a 5 from Quiet Karma, who said, when you surround an enemy, leave an outlet free. Do not press a desperate foe too hard, said Sun Tzu, Art of War.
Sun Tzu be saying all kinds of wild stuff.
Man, Sun Tzu is speaking straight bull. Straight bull. This guy, I tell you, he just says anything he wants.
Like, honestly, like, that's kind of true in a degree, but at the same time, encirclements are very, very successful for the most part, especially in modern war. The Second World War had an endless amount of encirclements that were conducted by the Germans against the Soviets, by the Soviets against the Germans. The Battle of Stalingrad and the end of the Battle of Stalingrad with the surrounding and encirclement of the Sixth Army is probably one of the greatest examples of an encirclement from the Second World War. There was also the Ruhr pocket, where the U.S. Actually isolated and destroyed about 300,000 German troops in a complete encirclement. So, I mean, Sun Tzu be saying stuff, but did Sun Tzu really know what he's saying? Or was he just really popularly known because he was the first person to write anything down? And I would have to be entirely honest. I don't really think I don't know if this is a hot take or not, but I don't really know if Sun Tzu was really all of that, because a lot of what he wrote down was quite literally the basics. Like, don't don't let the enemy, take the high ground, because they'll be able to fire down at you, and you also have to run up a hill. It's like, well, that's pretty common knowledge. No one wants to run up a hill and then fight someone at the top of it. It'd be better just to be there in the first place. And a whole bunch of stuff like that would seem to me to be kind of common knowledge. And also some of the statements that you make, in some cases, were quite obvious and, of course, smart, but other ones, like, don't completely encircle an enemy. It's like, it doesn't really make a lot of sense. It's like, why in the world would you not encircle them completely? Because if you do, their supplies are cut off. They're not going to have anything to eat. They have nothing really to fight with any farther, and they're going to eventually starve out, and they're going to have to surrender. And World War II proved that endless amounts of times with all of the encirclements that were conducted there. But a big thanks to you for support and help with this channel to keep it running. And with that, we're on the next one.
We also have a 5 from Game Theory once again. He said, to stop a drone, use air defense or hire that overly enthusiastic YouTube karate guy to deflect it.
Who is that guy?
I don't know.
Me
Some young guy.
Man, honestly though, I've been hearing a lot of things, man, out of Miami lately about some particular people who were on YouTube. I have you?
Some old guy.
Oh man, I've been hearing, man, that the color of the Bugatti ain't gonna be mattering for much long. Man, like, I've kind of been hearing that a little.
Come over here and kiss me on that hot mouth.
I'm feeling romantical.
I tell you what, I saw a video yesterday of the jail. Apparently, he was waving from the window.
Man, I heard that apparently they're going to have a big protest to let him out, and like only 2 people showed up, literally. Man, it was like one guy holding a sign and one like vlogger dude, and that was the only people who showed up to try and get him out. I was like, oh well, it's like, that kind of tracks a little. Right now, folks, the big question is, because the U.S. isn't doing anything to them, they're just holding them. I think the thing is that they're going to extradite them possibly to the UK, where they stand to, where they're going to be on trial for 52 different counts. I think most of them are, what, Matthew, do the British call them felonies or high crimes? I'm not really sure which they call them. I think they're felonies over there still.
I'm not really sure what they call it. It could be like travesties against the majesty or something like that. I'm not really sure.
Man, travesties against his majesty. Man, like, yeah, that's a great one, honestly. But they're going over there to stand trial for some very serious counts if they get extradited. And I think they also have, if I heard correctly, some sort of charges that they have in Romania as well, or something along those lines. It's a whole deal. But anyways, though, beyond that, a big thanks to you for supporting up with the show and keeping running. And with that, we're on the next one.
We also have a 5 from Andrew Honeycutt, who said, "In the Pale Moonlight is my favorite episode of DS9. Cisco sacrificed morals for the sake of the greater good, and who was the best captain in LSA?" Honestly, that man sounds right. He's a Russian commander, really, sacrificing morals for the sake of the greater good of the Russian Union. Like, might have had a little Russian in him. But unfortunately, what say you?
You know, I would say that, in my opinion, my favorite captain, the best captain, and I don't really count that new Star Trek Picard as canon, in my opinion, because it like completely destroyed the Picard name. But Captain Picard, in my opinion, was the best captain in all of Star Trek. I would say that Captain Picard was S tier, and I would say that F tier would probably be Captain Janeway. Hate to say that, but it just was. Like, I did not really like Star Trek Voyager a whole lot. Star Trek Voyager, to me, I don't know what it was, folks, but it just felt too detached from what every other Star Trek was before it. And it was like, I don't know. I don't really care for it all too much. But anyways, with that, I hope that does address that well, at least in my opinion. And a big thanks to you for support and helping this channel to keep it running. And with that, we're on the next one.
We also have a 5 from Slinger, who said, Limp Bizkit was the latest music group to perform on WTC on September the 7th, 2000, almost a year from the attacks. And thank you, and one from the chat, please, in LSA.
That's pretty wild. I actually didn't know that right there. And a big thanks to you for support, and we will make sure to take one from the chat. So what do we got, Matthew?
And this one goes to Tank Gunner, who said, question for you guys. Has there been any major changes or updates in the civil war in Myanmar?
Not really. And unfortunately, we don't really watch that one a whole lot because it kind of has been in a stalemate for years and it doesn't really look like it's been developing all too much. But a big thanks to you for the support and sponsoring our live chat and helping this channel to keep it running. And with that, we're on to the next one.
We also have a 5 from Game Theory, who said, my only real super chat tonight. Did you see the Secretary of War new Cyber Command 2.0 vid? And any thoughts about the military going cyberpunk?
I generally avoid anything that's published by the current people in the government with a plague. Like, I avoid every post by the president, the Secretary of Defense, all of them. So, I didn't watch it myself. But a big thanks to you for your support and helping this channel to keep running. And with that, we're on to the next one.
We also have a 20 Australian from Justin. And thank you, Justin, as well, for the Australian support. He said, South Park Maddie. Oh, that sounds like a gang member. He said, I love it, mate, but take one from the chat if possible and tech difficulties. And I guess I'm South Park, man. He's probably referring to that cartoon of those little bobblehead creatures. He's probably referring to, I'd imagine. I don't even, it was an unintentional reference if I made it, because I've never watched that show, at least in a big way. But we do appreciate support, and we will grab one from the chat. And this one is going to go to none other than Gary, who said, have you ever discussed how much money Iran could make to support their war machine if they could get money per ship as a toll?
Yes, actually, we talked about that last night, and it could amount to hundreds of billions of dollars a year, based off of our calculations of the average oil tanker that would pass through, how many of them would go through, and how much the barrels of oil are worth, and therefore the percentage. I think it was hundreds of billions of dollars a year. I forgot the exact amount, but it was well over 700 billion. So a big thanks to you for sponsoring a live chat and helping this channel to keep it running, and a big thanks to you once again, Justin, for your incredible support. And with that, we're on the next one.
We also have a 5 from MZ Cat, who said, why aren't we actively using drone interception devices like Leonidas or Morpheus X-Rotor?
Because we sadly do not have enough of them to field them en masse, and that's the reason why. Most of those systems are still in their prototype phases and have not been rolled out to the armed forces at large, and that's why we're still seeing that while the systems exist, we aren't using them. And so big thanks to you once again, and with that, we're on the next one.
We also have a 2 from Parbate Potato, and thank you, Mr. Potato, as well. He said, chili bowl.
Man, bro, that's an old one, man. Chili bowl. Man, you remember that from that one clip we played, man? It was just out of the blue at the very beginning. Chili bowl. And then we had to mute it.
Yeah, I think that was that hungry Ukrainian.
Man, honestly, man, that was kind of like those dudes that picnic in the cemetery, man, and they fired
Man,
like,
I tell you what. The Ukrainian humor is a different type. It's you have to really understand it to understand it.
I just don't understand it. Like, I just don't. But anyways, with that, we're on the next one.
We also have a 2 from Earth Lover, as well as Ryan Hill and Plazoth, who each put in a $2 support. And thank you all 3 for supporting the channel, and we do appreciate it once again. And we also have a 2 from ODST Moody, who said, Planet Lab Sats, 98-degree sun synchronous orbit.
Interesting. I thank you for sharing that with us. I did not know that. That is news. That is news to me. And so a big thanks to you for support and helping this channel to keep it running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
We also have a two from Blue Diamond who said, y'all watching a new Mike Klum documentary?
Uh Oh, wait, yeah, I know that one. I heard about it coming out. Like, I heard about it from that Moist Critical channel. And not really. I'm not really particularly interested in the guy. I know what it was about, and basically the guy's just admitting, yeah, that's me. Like, I'm a horrendous sort of a person. And I'm like proud of it, or something like that. And it's not really something I'm too interested in. Like, you could tell the guy was a little off. Like, honestly, like, I got it. Like, I don't know. Maybe a lot of people didn't like the guy beforehand, but I kind of thought that a lot of like the clips that he was like memed into before like that whole thing happened, I was like, I don't really get the funniness of him. I mean, like, it was kind of a little funny the first time, but it was just kind of like looking at someone who had like crazy deranged looking eyes screaming into a microphone at full volume about absolutely crazy shit. And I was like, I didn't really find him that funny. So, when that came out, I wasn't really shocked. So I was kind of like, oh, well, there goes another. And now it's apparently become a documentary, which is a little bit wild. But still, a big thanks to you for support and helping this channel to keep it running. And with that, we're on the next one.
We also have a $10 support from Neurofin who said, what are the forces of Europe, specifically NATO, that could be fielded against Russia if everything goes pear-shaped?
Quite a lot. It would be hard to break it down because it's actually nation by nation of what each nation can provide. But there is about 1,300 to 1,500 aircraft that would be fielded off the bat in most of Europe. There's about 1.6 million ground troops in Europe overall. And let's see what else. Couple of thousand tanks. Well, not a couple of thousand. Actually, it would be a few thousand tanks. There's about 3 to 4 thousand of them. A couple of hundred artillery pieces. Well, actually, over a few thousand artillery pieces. A couple of hundred MLRSs. I think that would generally be the running numbers in most of those categories, and that would be before the United States arrives, or if the U.S. never arrives, that's generally be what the numbers were that they would be working with. So they would be able to outnumber the Russians conventionally in almost every way. The problem is the drone warfare side of things, and we're not really sure how that would change the conflict for NATO, considering that they would have air superiority over the Russians pretty quickly. So a big thanks to your support and helping this channel to keep it running. And with that, we're on the next one.
We also have a two from EJ Kress who said, whatever happened to the rare earth with Ukraine?
Oh, that just got like completely forgotten. Like, they just threw that in the corner. Completely forgot that they even did it, and it doesn't even matter anymore. Like, that whole deal was just something to announce on a headline on a Truth Social that they got a big deal because everybody loves the word deal, and then completely forget about it afterwards because I've never heard it mentioned or brought up again. But a huge thanks to you for the support.
And those advertisements at fast food places where it's like the $5 meal deal, like that's like an instant like code word meal deal. Buy five of those sandwich deals. That's like code word.
Man, honestly, man, it kind of is, and it wasn't even worth anything. Honestly, Ukraine should have known not. Like, I hate to say this because this was a mistake that Zelensky made. The Ukraine should have known not to do that because it's not like it's changed anything whether they signed that or not. Because the president said, "Oh, but they sign it, then we'll help them," and then we never helped them anyway. So it's like they might as well just said, "Nah, we're good. We're not going to sign that. Thanks, though," and just left it for what it is. I don't even. I'll be honest with y'all, folks. If a new president comes into office in the next election and they're not from the current political party, they might just rescind that whole agreement because it doesn't really seem like it's even worthwhile, to be entirely honest. But anyways, with that, we're on the next one.
We also have a $1 support from Mark Andre Brunette. And thank you, Mark, as well for the one. And we do appreciate that very, very much. And with that, folks, it's now time to get some live chat questions and our Morse code decoders. And tonight we had the entire roster of decoders. It was Paul, Kevin, Mason, Joni, Norm, Arabelle, Arroyo, Flotus, Kush, Kateric, Sire, and Brian. They said the Morse code said, you guys to understand, Russia attacking Germany equal just stupid. And LLT LSA.
And and that's the sound of money. Y'all got that down on the nail. That is the Morse code message of the night. I gotta congratulate y'all greatly for getting that correct time and time again. Y'all are always getting that right. It's superfluously, amazingly. It's perfect, quite literally every single night. And we are always greatly appreciative of that. And the Leaf Spring Army thanks y'all greatly for always making sure to get that dead on the nail, no matter what. And so, a humongous thanks to y'all on the Leaf Springer Cinema Corps once more for that. And with that, it is time for us indeed to move on into our next Super Chats. What do we got, Matthew?
And this one is a $10 support from none other than Cerberus3 once again. And thank you very much, Cerberus, once more for the super chat. He
Hey.
said, sir. But a rabbit hole, if you both could, pick a dead historical person you seem like in mannerism, thought process, and actions, and who would you be? The choice is yours, and one from the chat, please. Now, that's interesting. I don't sadly really know. Like I would have to. I really don't know what their personality was like. But I would say in like decision making, like outside of a few bad decisions that he did make, which I personally wouldn't replicate. Which is I won't get into those. But Eisenhower, I would probably be like him to a certain degree. But like I said, exempt a couple of those bad decisions they made on certain things that are now considered not great. I would say generally kind of like that. But Enforcer, what say you?
That's an interesting one. I would have to say, honestly, folks, what do y'all think we would be as historical figures? Like, who do y'all think we would be? Like, of course, Matt and myself, because I don't really know who I would be. Like, really, I would like to be like Teddy Roosevelt. Because Teddy Roosevelt really didn't have a blemish on his record, honestly. Like, I'm like, Dwight. Dwight was over there, man. Let's see, how do you work this thing? Yeah, is this Alan Dulles? Yeah, I want you to overthrow the Iranian government, please. Pronto. Like, I also want you
That
to
sounds like
overthrow.
something I would be for.
I also want you to overthrow every single government down in Central America because they're impacting the United Fruit Company. Like, and then Dulles, aye, Captain. Bro, like he was
Well, you
on
don't
top
like
of that.
bananas?
Man, I mean, I like bananas. I like bananas.
You got to make sure you keep the banana trade open. That's important. Dwight knew that.
Man, Dwight knew that well. He said we gotta have that banana flavored Jello and shit. So they gotta go down there and they gotta get the business. Beyond that, though, oh man, there's a great video by the way out there, folks. I forgot who made it. It's Sam Onella Academy. Pull it up, y'all will love it. But it's about the banana wars and it's about the United Fruit Company. And there's some absolutely funny moments in that video that that guy made. I love that video. It's one of my favorites from that guy. But beyond that though. Outside of that, I would say it would be Teddy Roosevelt. Teddy Roosevelt is my role model when it comes to governance. He cared about the people. He balanced progress in industry with making sure that the people were well taken care of. People were able to get affordable living wages. Monopolies weren't existing in every single industry. They busted up almost every single major monopoly during Roosevelt's time and were able to achieve a very competitive market system as a result. The quality of life improved for a great deal of people. The Food and Drug Act was passed. In foreign policy, we were present and very strong and firm, but weren't running our mouths every single day about how great of an individual Teddy was, which is something that's sorely missed in the present day. There were a lot of things that Teddy Roosevelt did that, in my opinion, were absolutely great. So if I am like Teddy, I would love to be like Teddy. Teddy was a great president. So, with that, I hope that does address that the best I can, in my opinion, Sir Bros. And a big thanks to you once again for the support and help with the channel to keep it running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
We also have a 5 from Zach Martin, who said the interceptor cell to the Middle East countries instead of NATO is the best case for Putin's next step.
Might be actually. It might actually be. But a huge thanks to you for support and help with this channel to keep it running. And with that, folks, it's now time for us to get 3 live chats and round out this thing for the night. So what do we got, Matthew?
And this one goes to A.F. Kaplan. He said, God forbid one of these drones end up killing NATO civilians, but if that happens, do you think that'll finally get NATO to grow a spine, and what will it take?
I hate to say, I kind of think it depends on the number. If it's like 3 or 4 NATO citizens, will probably be another strongly worded letter. If it's hundreds of them, like say it hits an airplane and it crashes and everyone gets killed on board as a result, that would probably be Article 5 invocation worthy. But honestly, NATO is so weak, like with its decision making and its thought process. It's very hard to say they'll react to anything. But what do you think, Matthew?
Uh, I would say, I was trying to look at the question here real quick. Where did the question go? Like, what was the question again?
God forbid one of those drones end up killing NATO citizens, but if that happens, will NATO finally grow a spine, and what will it take?
I would generally have to agree with what you said for the most part. It depends on how like serious it is. NATO's preference is to overlook it, but if it's something so heinous that they can't overlook it, they'll be forced to respond.
That honestly is probably the best answer both of us can give, unfortunately. But with that, it is time for us to move on to the second to last question of the night.
And this one goes to Jess Sackett, who said, do you believe that NATO will send more weapons to Ukraine in response to the drone incursions?
Possibly, but it's also a consideration they might hold off weapons to Ukraine because now they're thinking they might be at war with Russia soon, and now they want to have those munitions in case if they're at war with Russia. So I'm not really sure which way it'll go, but I think that their current support right now will probably continue in the same trickle it has been for a good while, probably until the fall. So I hope that is addressed it the best I can. And with that, we're on to the final question of the night. And so, who is like the last person to throw in the lucky last question of the night?
And that viewer is Elwood, who said, "Is the Black Sea essentially a naval no-go zone, and what's the NATO presence there?"
The Black Sea pretty much is a no-go zone for us because outside of Romania, Bulgaria, and Turkey's coastal defense vessels, there really isn't anything that we have in the Black Sea, and it would also be dangerous to put anything in the Black Sea because the only way out is the Bosphorus and the Dardanelles, which is it's like a pinhead sized hole in a fishbowl, and if we want to leave we have to go through that tiny little exit in the fishbowl. So once you get in there, it's basically like the Strait of Hormuz. It's fighting in a bathtub with knives, and it's not really a situation we want to be in. So generally we probably just stay out of the Black Sea and just try and anti-ship missile all of the Russian ships that are stuck in the Black Sea, but we probably wouldn't want to be in there. And honestly, I think it'd probably be better if we weren't, for the most part, at least in terms of like surface fleet or submarines inside the Black Sea. We probably just want most of the actions to be done by air power around the Black Sea and just leave it at that. But that would be my 2 cents on the matter, and we might have something better than that in the U.S. Department of Defense. With that, I hope that does address that the best I can. And we have one last super chat here. Andrew Honeycutt threw in a 5 and said, "Should we kowtow to the ruling authorities and let them make the best decisions for us because they know better? Don't think just comply with orders." No, absolutely not. That violates every principle of this republic, which relies on self-representation, which means that we must vote, and we must vote for elected officials that make the decisions based off of what the people want. And so I would say, no, we should definitely make sure that the public has a say and that the public is voting and representing itself through the vote and elections to have their officials represent them and their wishes. So a big thanks to your support and help this channel to keep running. And with that, folks, we've reached the end of tonight's stream. Holy smokes, folks, what a night. We reached a peak viewership, I'd say probably like 17,000. It says 16.3, but it's probably going to update to be a lot higher because the viewership is way higher than it should be at 16.3 thousand live viewers. Because tonight we had 120,000 people watch the stream before it ended, and we also had every single one of y'all watch on average 22 minutes and 30 seconds. That's a lot of time, actually. And I got to thank each and every single one of y'all for watching, and we will see you all tomorrow at 10 p.m. Eastern Time to cover the next 24 hours of the news from around the world. And if there is a short war video to be made, Enforcer Matt will be the one making that short war video. And so with that, isn't it your day tomorrow?
Yes.
Good. I was just making sure. I don't know why I'm forgetting that these days. But with that, good night, good luck, take care, stay safe. Slava Ukraini, Ram Slava, long live the Lead Spring Army, and long live the Republic.
And with that, folks, we will see you all tomorrow night at 10 p.m. Eastern on the next Nightly War News stream to cover all the news throughout the rest of the day tomorrow, which it's the weekend, so I wouldn't count on anything happening because, of course, the U.S. is trying to do that deal talk, but you never can tell. But a huge shout out to the 120,000 plus people that joined us once again tonight, and I hope to see you all tomorrow and maybe on a short war video, but definitely on a stream once more. But with that, of course, Slava Ukraine, Urals Slava, get some rest, and good night.